Let's go, Ryan Flournoy. This is the Week 14 NFL Picks video. We did one yesterday with Andy Isco. We're doing one with Evan Daniels tonight. Before we intro everything, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. As always, something for the merch store. It is the August is a Gluttony Month t-shirt, and if you guys can see this, my daughter looks at the t-shirt and she's like, "Daddy," and I'm like, "This is Daddy?" She's like, "Yes." So apparently, I'm a fat blue-haired guy eating donuts. Supposed to just a fat guy eating donuts, but you can get that as well as everything else at the merch store. We have a 20% off sale. You can change the colors of any shirt. You can get long sleeve hoodie, women's tank top, infant onesie, anything. We have our mugs, our famous apron, and you can go to Amazon, buy my books. The most recent one is Jerks of the College Years, where I made fun of people at Penn State. It's a great time writing it. Thank you guys that have a blast reading it. Safety and the Field Goal was my first book, where it was the top 5 topic book about the NFL, mostly serious stuff, but some fun stuff as well. And just please consider super chats and super stickers. It's the best way to support the show. We had a couple yesterday from an Anthony Jackson who's asking for fantasy advice last week and the week before. We had Kevin Kovac giving us $100 worth of super chats, super stickers, and also Slew and John Sanders helping us out as well. So thank you guys so much for helping us out. I can't say it enough because YouTube ads, as always, don't pay anything. Q4 is better, but once January comes around, in about a month, it's going to be pretty brutal for the ads. So, all right, thank you so much, Kevin and Slew and John Sanders and everyone. All right, we're joined by Evan Daniel once again. Evan, how are you? How's your week 13?
Good evening, everyone. So we reached a point where Survivor has concluded. So how was week 13? The one thing that really, something that I focus on and we talked about for hours and hours a week, Circus Survivor is now over for me. There are 45 people remaining out of just over 18,700. Pretty much everybody got knocked out Thanksgiving week. And what I mean by everybody is anybody who has a brain and who planned Survivor, meaning you look ahead at least a week or 2 weeks or 4 weeks, you need to save the teams that you believe will be favored on Thanksgiving. Now, for somebody who has a lot of entries, I know there was one person with 7 remaining, took 1 on the Bengals, he had 5 on the Ravens. So is that person lucky? No, he just has a lot of entries remaining and planned to hedge one of them. But anybody else, there were a few people who just didn't have any favorites available. It's like, oh shit, here we are. I don't have any favorites available. I guess I got to play the Bengals. I guess I got to play the Cowboys or the Bears. And that's just bad planning. That's not somebody who had an inkling or a hunch. You're in a tournament for $18 million. If you really like the underdog, go take a big fat bet. Go put $20,000, $50,000 on the underdog on the money line or the spread. So the people who advanced, the 49 people now down to 45 who advanced, people say, oh, these guys are great. They're smart. No, these people are fish and they're just lucky. Yes, I'm bitter. So we're out. Now, the crazy thing is I would have taken the Rams. We talked last week. I said you wouldn't have liked my pick. I'm going to take the Dolphins. Mm-hmm. I pretty much ruled out the Rams as a team to save for down the road because, again, you have to save teams. You really have to plan to go 20-0 to go through the grind. And we basically got cold feet on the Dolphins. And it wasn't because you talked me out of it. So it wouldn't have been your fault that we changed to the Rams on Friday afternoon. I just figured that Cincinnati looked decent on Thursday night and they became an option for week 17. And there was just, you always ask, when do you feel stupid? And I would feel more stupid losing with Tua than the Rams, who absolutely no-showed last week. So Circus Survivor's over. Actually, the Grandissimo is really over. There were 6 people left. They all chopped $6.9 million. I'm hopeful that I'm going to raise some money. Some investors will go and buy into that contest next year. $100,000 buy-in. So we'll see if I can raise some money and enter that tournament, because I think I guess this year was 69 people. My guess is there'll be closer to 100 next year. That you don't necessarily have to plan to go 20-0, because that contest, even if they didn't, even if 3 out of the 6 got through Thanksgiving, I don't think that would have lasted anyway until Christmas. So I just felt like a little bit easier of a pool. And then the bottom line here, of course, is not so much going winner take all. There's equity involved. Not only can you sell shares, but I had been betting against my entries all year. So when I lost, Titans, Arizona, we cleaned up on that money line. I was a live 15-1. We had team total overs. We had spreads. I had numerous times where I was playing Tennessee live in different games against the Chargers. They covered a game that I had against them. The Jets covered plus 14 the week I had the Ravens. And of course, last week, I had the Dolphins live when I lost my Bills entry. And then last week, I was live betting the Bears. So I had the money line before the game started. I had the +7 before the game started. And then live, we're playing 6.5 plus 3.5. At one point, when it was 10-9, I said, oh, shoot, Eagles are going to score. They're going to get a 2-point conversion. I have a lot of liability right now on the Bears. Like, I kind of need the Eagles to score and not get the 2-point conversion. But, oh, well, we move on from it. We'd rather lose week 13 than week 17 like I did 3 years ago. So that's over. But before we get into this week's games, I feel like Thanksgiving is like a good, it's not halfway, but it's a good line of demarcation where you kind of look at the league from 30,000 feet, kind of see where everything is. So I was looking, we talked weeks ago about spreads and ATS records, and would there be a regression to the mean? So many favorites covering. So according to covers.com, and that's not including tonight's game at all, I don't think, we have now favorites are 98 and 93 and 3. It's 51%. So 51 versus 49% basically across the season. So the regression happened. The regression to the mean happened. Over-unders, by the way, 95 and 95. So anybody says, oh, I like overs, or oh, I like unders. If you play the season long, the lines adjust so that it hits that regression. Last year was just a very, very weird year where it was a ton of favorites. This year, it regressed. This year, it's pretty much as expected. So there was no need. A few weeks ago, we made the mistake, or I made the mistake of completely adjusting my power ratings to shade more towards favorites. Underdogs are just fine, as the records show. And then I looked at your power ratings, and I looked at my own power ratings to look at overrated, underrated teams. I'll look at leaks. Like, I don't even know records. Now I know the records of teams. Like, I don't care about whose record is what. I mean, we talked about the Bears or the Broncos, teams that were overrated or underrated, Carolinas of the world. But now I looked at the schedule. It's like, oh, that team is really on their way out. Dallas Lions tonight, pretty much an elimination game. So I think as we go through the games, I want to point towards our power ratings as kind of get a sense of where we are as we kind of hit the home stretch now, last month of the season.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan for tonight. 45 fish. There's actually 45 fish on the screen here. I made sure Mike counted correctly. I agree with you. I saw a bunch of tweets saying like, "Oh, it was so smart to take the Bears." Like,
yeah,
no, it's smart to take the Eagles and hedge with the Bears. Like that's the right way to do it. But what's even dumber is to not know the rules. And I don't know if you heard that one guy.
Yeah, I saw one of the guys with no pick. He didn't know the rules.
He didn't know the rules, and he's like, I don't have X or Twitter. Yeah. I don't know what he said. I'm like, it's such a shame. It's so expensive. It's if he had the money, he could download it.
He doesn't have to download. He can hire Andy.
Right.
Hire a proxy and just have somebody do it for you.
Exactly.
I'm very confident that if I fell asleep at the wheel and I didn't send Andy a pick, he probably would have put in the highest favorite that I would have if he couldn't reach me. Yeah. He would have just not submit a pick, right? So just hire a proxy. Have somebody do it for you. Even if you live in Vegas, you should hire a proxy.
Yeah, that's what the VSiN guys are saying.
Handle the picks for you.
Yeah. The VSiN guys are saying that on their show. Like, at least, I mean, the guy wasn't rude or anything. That's nice, but like, how do you not know that rule? I'm not even in the contest.
He didn't have any favorites available.
Yeah, he had all the underdogs. Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. No, it's so ridiculous. Like, I'm not even in the contest. I know the rule. That's why you need to send me your tentative pick on Friday.
I always send Andy my picks on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
Yeah, I always I do it differently. I have it set to schedule. I have it scheduled out to send 12:55 and 2:55. So basically the same thing. Okay, let's get to the games here. So before we do that, any thoughts on Cowboys Lions, or do you just want to dive into the game?
Yeah, we talked right before we went live. It's hard to put stock into these Thursday night games or international games. I didn't really downgrade the Cowboys time, maybe a half a point. I thought the game was definitely closer than the final score. The pick right after halftime, first play in the third quarter, was a fluke pick. It was batted up in the air. I didn't think that was a bad I don't think that was a bad play by Dak. I mean, I don't think Dak is clutch. I mentioned that late. I don't know what they were doing on that final drive. They were running the ball a couple of times. So I don't have any confidence in Dak in a late game situation. But once they made it 30-27, that was my predicted score in the game. There was just 6 minutes to go. So obviously that didn't come to fruition. But I thought the game was closer than it was. I was rooting for the Lions. I'm rooting, as you'll see as we go through the games, I am rooting for who I think the better teams are, because I am annoyed that this playoffs, I know you said you don't care. You think there's going to be a lot of teams to fade. But you're going to get a lot of negative teams, a lot of below average or close to average teams. Like, I really want to see Detroit in the playoffs. Even as a Niner fan, where I would love to see Dallas in the playoffs. But I want to see better teams. I want to see the best teams in the playoffs. And we can maybe talk later about college football. I don't want to see the North Texases and the JMUs and the Tulanes of the world against Indiana or Ohio State. To me, that's boring football. You want to take advantage from a betting perspective, great. But it's boring football. I want to see the Lions and the Packers. I want to see, well, I don't want to see the Eagles. Screw the Eagles. But I want to see the Rams, the Niners. I want to see the better teams playing. I don't want to see Dallas. I think Dallas has played much better lately, but I'm rooting for Detroit tonight. And we'll go through the games. There's a lot of teams that I'm simply rooting against because I don't want to see Jacksonville, teams like that are good, or Pittsburgh. These teams suck. I don't want to watch Pittsburgh in the playoffs. I've seen Pittsburgh in the playoffs before. It ends the same way every year. So I was rooting for the Lions tonight, but I did have Dallas plus 3.5. So oh well, didn't get there. We hit some live bets as usual. We're killing the live bets. FanDuel's going to throw me that again. So we keep hitting these live ladders on. I mean, I hit Gibbs tonight over 72.5 receiving. You hit Ferguson. You hit Flanoy. I never heard of Flanoy before tonight. So good for you on that one. But yeah, so I thought the game tonight was, at least it was more entertaining than your typical Thursday night Raiders Broncos 10-7 game. So at least we had tonight some points.
I am definitely rooting for the Steelers to make the playoffs. That'd be great. I can't wait to bet against them. It's a free win. Why not? I like money. Let's win some money here. And
make money on anything.
Well, it's easier to make it that way. I don't know.
That's boring. Just sell cover calls all day, right?
Yeah, that's true. But you can't do it at night when the football is going on. So it's cover calls during the day, football at night. That's how we would like to do it. All right, let's get to the games here. We have Redskins and Vikings to open. Vikings are now -1.5. The spread has been like all over the place. The line to open was Redskins -2. It moved to Vikings -2. It's down to -1.5. And there was news today that Jaden Daniels practiced fully today. I don't know what that means for this game, but I did draft him in best ball. For what it's worth. It's like my final best ball draft of the week. So I don't know. I mean, like I like the Vikings here, thinking that Marcus Mariota was going to start. You have your Christian Darrisaw, who's healthy. Actually, he was DNP today, but he's been DNP every Thursday. So I assume he's just going to play because he was full Wednesday. So with Darrisaw back, I like Minnesota's offense here, despite the horrible quarterbacking, because I mentioned this with Andy last night. JJ McCarthy and Max Brosmer, they have not faced a bottom half defense yet. Like every defense they face is in 14th or higher, including last week, Seattle, #1. They've had, as bad as they've been, look, they've been terrible, but they haven't faced an easy opponent yet. And nothing's easier than Washington's 32nd defense. So I thought that we might see McCarthy's best game, especially with Darrisaw back. And I like fading Mariota against Minnesota's defense because it brings lots of pressure. Mariota is terrible at pressure. But if this is Daniels, this would actually be the first game all year that Washington would have Daniels, McLaurin, Samuel, and a healthy offensive line on the field at the same time. So I think that's worth something, So right now, I don't know what to do with this game. If Mariota starts, I still like the Vikings quite a bit. If it's Daniels, probably will lay off just because we don't know what sort of quarterback we're going to get in his first game back. So what are your thoughts here?
Same exact. This is definitely a line that suggests that Jaden's going to play. Because if Jaden were not playing, I would make this line 3.5, maybe 3, even with how bad McCarthy's been. He's not as bad as Brosmer. Brosmer was god-awful. I mean, he's not an NFL quarterback. I don't think McCarthy is any good, and certainly hasn't been good. And now you're talking about the mental game that he's playing with himself. but he's had moments. He came back against the Bears twice, first week of the season, and then a couple of weeks ago he did lead a drive that took a lead before they gave up a long kick return. So he's had a couple of moments where he's been okay. This is a bad defense he's facing, as you've mentioned. It's a defense that's now played back-to-back overtime games. Granted, there was a bye in between, but they played a grueling game last week against Denver. So that it was somewhat of a short week, given that it was Sunday Night Football. I mean, obviously, not an extra day, but they played at night, and it's an overtime game. It was a full overtime game. It wasn't like a quick drive in overtime. I think Denver's defense was on the field for 90 plays, something crazy like that. We'll talk about Denver later. So I definitely lean towards Minnesota at home in this game in a bounce back spot against a very bad defense. But if it's Jaden, then the line is right. And now you're flipping a coin. And I have no desire to flip a coin with Minnesota, because then to me it comes down to the last drive or two. And I don't have confidence in him leading a drive, whereas I do have confidence in Jaden just being able to use his legs in a final drive. So, and Minnesota's defense hasn't been as good as advertised, certainly as hasn't been as good as it was last year. So I would have no interest in this game if it's Jaden, if it's not Jaden, if it's Mariota, because I did see he practiced today, but that doesn't mean he was going to play. It could very well be a situation like Burrow a couple of weeks ago, where he got some reps, he took some contact, but he's still not playing yet. This suggests that he'll probably play eventually, and I don't see why he would. To me, that makes no sense. He's a fragile quarterback coming off an injury with a team that's not going anywhere. It doesn't make any sense to play him. They should absolutely shut him down. This is not a Burrow situation where he had surgery and now he's protected. And if he's healthy, he's healthy. Jaden didn't have surgery. So I think he's just recovering from, the elbow injury that he had. So I absolutely would not play him. I don't know if he's going to play. If he doesn't play, this would be a potential top 5 pick.
Okay, I'm going to put this in the maybes right now, and we'll have a better idea Friday night about Daniels' status. Yeah, you're right about the Redskins potentially being tired. There's 160 snaps that they played in total in that game. Like they have to be trained. It was a great game. It felt like they left everything on the field. I just don't know if they can summon the same strength again. Yeah, the same energy in this game. So I feel like I like Minnesota here, but the Daniel status kind of throws like a wrench to the equation. It's kind of have to figure out what that's all about. So hopefully,
it really doesn't make sense that they're going to play him. I don't see what the purpose is of playing him at this point.
Well, it makes their draft pick worse, right? If they win games, which is good because they always screw it up anyway. So there's less criticism.
If he gets hurt again, whether it's shoulder, elbow, or because he's protecting himself, something else compensates, Quinn is going to look like a fool.
Yeah, it really does, though. How much more of a fool can he look like? It's like on the fool meter, he's like already 10. It's no 11. Yeah. So I don't know.
I would definitely monitor the status report, and kind of see where the line goes, because if he's ruled out, this line goes to 3 at a minimum.
Okay. Yeah. So we have 2.5 in the contest. So
I think it's 2 in the contest.
Maybe I wrote down the wrong number. Did I write down the wrong number? No, sorry. No, wait. I wrote that on the wrong column, but I think I wrote down 2.5. Maybe I wrote down the wrong number. Hold on.
You're right.
That's 2.5. Okay.
2.5.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's go to the next game. Dolphins at the Jets. This line is Dolphins -2.5. In real life, it is 3 in the contest, so it's kind of nice. There are some 3s out there. Looks like BetMGM is a 3, FanDuel has a 3, but you have to pay more vig for that. So unfortunately, BetRivers looks like BetRivers is the legit sportsbook that has the best 3 -117. I don't quite understand why the Dolphins are favored by 3 in this game. I kind of do, because they won 4 in a row, but they're not that good. And it's the same. This is the same argument I made last week, where I like the Saints, and it did look dubious when they're on 16-0. But Tyler Shuck came back in the fourth quarter. Miami's defense is horrible, and if they didn't have that pick too, there's a chance the Saints would have won at the end with the field goal after they recovered the onside kick. Miami is just a team that does nothing well outside of utilize Devon Achane. And the Jets have had a good run defense ever since they traded Quinn Williams. It's kind of weird that they would improve against the run, but they've gotten better defensively as the years progressed. I guess Aaron Glenn's system didn't take to the team initially, but maybe they got used to it. So I can see that making sense. So I don't think the Dolphins are going to do much scoring here, especially given that it's supposed to be cold. Tua Tagovailoa is 0-8 in weather games, 45 degrees or colder. So that's an advantage for the Jets. I like the Jets matchups as well. I think that like Mason Taylor should have a good game. I think Breece Hall should have a good game here. The Jets receivers are doing well with Tyrod Taylor is doing a good job. At least he's done a good job the past 2 weeks, especially last week. I feel like these teams are about even. I think the Dolphins are like slightly better, but they're not good enough to be 3-point favorites or 2.5-point favorites on the road. So I like the Jets quite a bit here. What do you think?
So yeah, the power rating, the game shouldn't be -3. I would make the Dolphins -2, maybe -1.5. So I agree with you on the front that the Jets getting that full field goal is probably a little bit of value. Obviously, we know about Tua in the cold. You mentioned when it's below 40 or 45 degrees. I think you said 0-8. I think I saw 0-5, anything under 40.
Yeah.
So we don't like Tua in the cold weather. We know that. The problem is taking the Jets, right? You mentioned this last week when you liked the Jets. That game was a back and forth game, and the Jets probably ended up winning. Aside from the knuckleball field goal that they somehow made, it was really more Raheem Morris. I mean, a lot of the things that he did in that game were just awful. And when I went back and looked at the Jets-Dolphins game from the first game they played this season, the Jets actually outplayed Miami in that game. They dominated the yardage of 7.1 to 5.4 yards per play. If you remember, they fumbled the opening kickoff of the second half. That led to an immediate touchdown. They rushed in that game for almost 200 yards. I think they had 197 yards rushing in that game. A lot of that was Fields. I think Fields had 80 yards rushing or 81 yards rushing. So a lot of that was Fields, and we don't expect Taylor to be running as much. But certainly there are matchup edges that the Jets could exploit. But when you're betting the Jets, you're betting the Jets. So is it a team that you really want to put your money on? If we were getting 3.5, I would say, yeah, I really like it because it shouldn't be more than a field goal game. I do like the Jets. I take the Jets. I think the Jets will probably win this game just because of the Tua and the cold factor. But you're taking a +3. You're asking for a push. You're really asking for the Jets to win the game. And it's very hard for me to go and bet on the Jets to win football games. So if it's something you really like, I'm not opposed to it, but it's not really a game that I would rush to. I don't want to put any money on this game. Even from a teaser perspective, getting if the line were 2 or 2.5 and taking 8.5, I just don't have the desire to put money on the Jets if I don't have to.
That's fair. It's not one of my top plays. It might be like number 4 or number 5 on my card. So
for me, I had this like one of the lower ranked. Like, yeah, I don't really want to get involved in this. But I agree with everything you said. I mean, the Jets are to me definitely the right side. Like, I would not be laying 3, even in an office pool or anything. I would not be laying 3 or 3.5 points with Miami.
Yeah, that'd be insane. I'll put it as a maybe, and we'll circle back to it. You mentioned the first matchup between the teams as the Monday night game. There are 5 fumbles in that game. Miami recovered every single one of them. So you would expect variance to kind of go the other way, or maybe
exactly. I think the Jets outplayed Miami in that game.
Yeah, they did. They certainly did. So it's not a surprise. Ken asking thoughts on CeeDee Lamb coming back for week 15. He's got 10 days off, so that helps, right?
Is that a concussion?
Concussion. Yeah, concussion. So usually players will miss 1 week. And I think the NFL's kind of stressed that just so they don't get sued. But if it's 10 days, then yeah, obviously he has a better chance. We don't know how severe the concussion is. You know, every concussion is different. We just don't know. It's so anything I tell you is guesswork. But
we have no way of knowing.
Right. So, but what we do know is, yeah, if he has 3 more days, then he has a better chance. But it's impossible to tell. I mean, if you have Lamb in fantasy, try to get Flournoy, just in case. He should be one of the top waiver wire ads this week. But yeah, you can't really know.
That's a Sunday night game. Have they flexed any Sunday night games going forward?
Why have they not flexed my Minnesota Dallas? There's so many good games.
Well, I guess it's America's team. It's Dallas. They're not going to take Dallas out of prime time.
To two non-winning teams on Sunday Night Football.
Look, have they moved any other teams? What are the other games? Like week 16. Sunday night, week 16 is Bengals Dolphins. Like what are we talking about here?
Can't wait for that.
Yeah, there's no way. There's no way that's the Sunday night game. When are they flexing that out? 2 weeks in advance.
as a 2020 NFL draft battle royale between those two quarterbacks.
No, that game has to be flexed. What is that week? That's week 16.
Yeah.
Week 16. You have a couple of games on Saturday night.
Mm-hmm. They'll flex that one.
You know, they'll flex Chargers Cowboys, but they can't because they just put the Cowboys in prime time.
Yeah, there's so many good games next week. There's
you know what game they should put in that window? Bucks Panthers. A divisional winner.
Look, there's Bucks Panthers, there's Chargers Chiefs, there's Ravens Bengals again. There's Bills,
Ravens Patriots.
I wrote down. I'm talking about week 15.
Oh, week 15. Okay.
Yeah. I'm talking about week 15. So yeah, Bills, Patriots, Ravens, Bengals, Chargers, Chiefs, Colts, Seahawks, Packers, Broncos, Lions, Rams. These are all games that are going to be on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, but it's a week away, so they can't change it now.
Yeah, I know, but why didn't they change it?
I'm waiting for them to announce week 16's move because week 16 you can't have Miami, Cincinnati. That can't be a night game.
Yeah, well, they should invite the Chargers with Justin Herbert and have the three quarterbacks go at it. I don't know how you do a three team game. Actually, I once bought like a 4-player chess set. Like you have like the two, obviously the top and bottom, but then they have two on the sides. And I was like, I always thought it was like so cool. I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to play. But like the what I didn't realize is like I have to know 3 people who also play chess, and I don't. So I never played it ever. I just always had the game. I don't know how it works. I guess you go clockwise, but whatever. Anyway, yeah. So they certainly have to flex the one. That would be great. That'd be crazy to have that. It's crazy to have Minnesota, Dallas. Like I don't understand the thought process behind that one. You know,
Dallas. You need to have Dallas in primetime every week.
I guess they're a winning record. It's how do with all those good games you have Dallas, Minnesota. So it's insane. Mm-hmm. But anyway, all right, let's get to the next game, which is Titans at Browns. What a barn burner this is going to be. The Browns are favored by 4. The Browns suffered some injuries last week, and as you know, because they played the Niners, they had a lot of bad luck in that game. Like they had they give the Niners 3 short fields off various things, like Harold Fannin fumble, long kickoff return, another. I think the third one's the fumble kickoff or whatever. And then they had a lot of injuries too. They lost a couple of offensive linemen. Wyatt Teller has not practiced yet. Jack Conklin hasn't practiced yet. So this team is kind of in shambles right now. But they are playing the Titans, who are also in shambles and far worse. And to me, like the best unit on the field by far is the Browns defense. Like there's no question. And you have Myles Garrett, who has 19 sacks, against Cam Ward, who holds the ball the longest of any quarterback in the NFL. I think Garrett has a chance to break the sack record this week. Mm-hmm. He could certainly get 4 here. 22 and a half is what he has to pass. So I do like. I want to say I don't want to say I like the Browns. I'm going to side with the Browns for office pool purposes. I don't want to lay 4 with them though. Like their offense is so anemic, especially with the offensive line injuries. And Shador Sanders.
What did
I make the line? I made the line 4.5. What did you make the line?
7.
7. Okay. Well, I guess you like the Browns then. You do? Okay. Well, I mean, I don't be rooting for like Shador Sanders throwing constant screen passes. It's like the only thing he does with no offensive line there. But a fade of Tennessee, I'm always down to fade Tennessee. So if you could convince me to put the Browns on the card, we can do it.
Yeah. Well, let me start with my power ratings because I have the Browns 27th in the league at -4.5, which is a low number. But I drop off dramatically when we get to the Saints and Titans. I have the Titans -11. This is one of the worst football teams I've ever seen. They have 1 win, which was a fluke, right? That Cardinals game was a fluke win. Mm-hmm. They have no coach. They have no offense. They have no defense. When they were competitive in some of these games, it was either backdoor or it was when they had some special teams touchdowns or big returns. You saw what happened last week when they don't win the special teams and they lost the special teams. They had a muffed kickoff. They get blown out. Last week, they had 3.4 yards per play. They were 2 for 12 on third down, and they were -2 in turnovers. If they put up any sort of performance like that, they have no chance. This game reminds me a little bit more of the Browns-Dolphins game from a few weeks ago when it was 31-6. It's not about Shador or Dylan Gabriel or anybody moving the ball. It's simply the Titans won't move the ball. They're not going to score. Obviously we know how bad the Browns offense is. So whether they have linemen or not, I'm not expecting their offense to do much. Last week was a fluke. You mentioned it. I don't know why Stefanski went 4th and 1 in his own 35-yard line in a game that was 10-8. That doesn't make any sense. It wasn't 20-8. It wasn't late in the game. There was no reason for them to go for it in that situation and give the ball to the Niners at the 30-yard line. Obviously, they gave up a long kick return, and they also muffed a kick. So 3 drives that the Niners had. Otherwise, the game was pretty much even. I liked the Browns last week plus 5.5, and I would bet it again if that game happened this week. Now we talk about pressure. Okay, Cam Ward has been pressured this year on 177 of his dropbacks. That is alarming, to say the least. And we predicted this before the season because the guy holds the ball too long. On dropbacks where he's pressured, he is 48 for 118 passing. That's 41% passing. That's not, you got to be a 60% passer in the NFL to last. This guy's throwing the ball he's completing passes at 41% clip. He's been sacked 47 times. I think he's been sacked 48 times, but on the statistics that I looked at, it showed 47. And Cleveland's number 2 in the league in sacks. And Garrett's going for the record. So yes, I agree. They've lost some guys on the D-line, which might make it a little bit harder for Garrett to get his. But the defensive line is going to dominate. It's cold. I don't have to score 27 points to cover a number. I made this line 7. Maybe if you tell me it's 6, 6.5, I buy it. When it was 3.5, I said, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. Now it's up to 4, 4.5, which makes a little bit more sense. I don't think the Titans get to 10 points. So you give me 13-9, or that's not 4.5, 13-6, 16-6, 16-9. I don't have to score 20. But I think Cleveland could, either getting a defensive score or creating a short field or 2 against Cam Ward. I just don't see how the Titans move the ball at all. So unless you tell me there's special team scores or Shador holds the ball too long, throws a pick 6, or fumbles on his own 20-yard line, which you can't really handicap, but if you are handicapping the likelihood of turnovers leading to points, I'm still on the Browns. So no, you don't want to lay points with a team like Cleveland with that offense. Yes, I want to back Cleveland's defense against one of the most anemic offenses I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's certainly fair. I think if you look at the difference between the Miami game and this game for the Browns, I think it's the offensive line with those injuries, because they're not intact there. I don't know how they're going to play together. Like, running the ball might be an issue, with Jeffrey Simmons maybe dominating an interior, missing Teller. They did suffer some defensive line injuries too. So the Browns are down some guys. Now, I still think that they are the right side. Like I said, I'm going to be with them here. So given your confidence here, I'm certainly.
I also look at Tennessee's rush defense. Tennessee's rush defense it's not the worst in the league, but it's not good. It's not something they do well. And I would expect Stefanski. I think after what happened last week, he's taken a lot of heat for the game plan he put together. People are kind of accusing him of purposely sabotaging the offense. So
he is anti-Shador. Like, he didn't want to start Shador as Sanders.
Well, he'll give the ball to Judkins 30 times.
Yeah. I think
I'm very confident in the Browns defense. So if you want to know the best bet in this game, to me, it's Tennessee team total unders. Kind of play that from the start, play it by half. I don't see how Tennessee scores in this game. I don't see how they drive the field in this game.
The one thing that was scaring me the most is Shamar DK. Obviously, it's the only thing Tennessee does well. And keep in mind, the Browns, they allowed 2 kickoff return touchdowns to the Jets when they played a few weeks ago. So I don't know if that would play a factor at all. But yeah, Shamar DK was full in practice today, so he'll be on the field. But I said
this all season long, he's the only guy on that team that gives me any sort of concern. And I went against him in Survivor probably 8 times, and every time he touches the ball, I feel like he's a threat.
Yeah.
But they have no run game. They have no pass game. He holds the ball. Cam Ward holds the ball too long. You're looking at temperatures that are going to be sub 30 degrees potentially. There may be snow. I'm just picturing Garrett chasing Cam Ward with flurries coming down. That's just not that's not a recipe for success. I don't envision Cam Ward making 15, 20-yard throws downfield with Garrett in his face.
Yeah, it's going to be an ugly game for Ward. Great game for Garrett.
And I just don't think the Titans on the road should ever be underdogs by less than 7 points, unless they're playing the Saints. In which case, I would have them underdogs by like 3.
Yeah, well, we haven't seen that, unfortunately.
We will see that.
Yeah.
Get ready.
Yes.
You will see it. Sorry, it's in Tennessee. Tennessee hosts New Orleans, Week 17.
I can't wait.
Maybe I should put that on Sunday Night Football for comedy's sake.
Put it on 1 a.m. in Lifetime.
Or send them to like London or something. London, we'll give you an extra game this year, but we're taking a game away from you next year.
Just send it to Somalia at that point. Send it back with the ones in Minnesota. Anyway, we had Kevin Kovac, $7 to super chat, and this is funny. He meant to say Evan. Evan almost gave us the list, and he almost did it twice. I thought that was funny. So I'll do the list. I'll do the list in honor of Kevin Kovac's $7 super chat. All right, let's go. The Titans can't throw the ball. They can't run the ball. They can't block. They can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. They can't pass cover. They have no coach. They have no offensive line coach. The only thing they can do well is just punt return touchdowns. That's it. So thousands of empty sections available for at least thousands. Yeah. They have to like pay people to go to that game. It's like, I imagine it's like a Penn State basketball game. I was for some reason, I was like with some guys, like we were supposed to go out, but they wanted to go to the game first for some reason. I like they were like one of the guys was covering the game for his journalism class, so we went to the game first before going to some party, and like we went in and like it was like Penn State versus like Indiana, Purdue, Fort Wayne. So it's just like one of those garbage games. And I came in, I'm like ready to pay, and I just went in and like I'm like, where do we pay? They're like, we don't pay here, just go in. So, I feel like that would be like the Saints Titans game. Tennessee is a rookie punt returner that will return to the house. Special teams big advantage for Tennessee. That's the only advantage they have here. Is that I'm worried. That's the only thing I'm worried about. But if they don't get it, then I feel like there's almost no way they do it unless Shador really screws up. Yeah, but
I think you have to take in this game like we did for the Browns Raiders game, both teams to get a defensive or special teams touchdown. And then parlay them. Mm-hmm. You get a great payout on that.
Yeah, it's a shame that it didn't hit in that Raiders-Browns game. Maybe we'll do in this. Maybe we'll that happen in this one. So that'll be fun. All right, let's get to the next game. Steelers at Ravens. The Ravens are down to 5.5. It was 6. The reason it's down is because Lamar Jackson did not practice today. I was on the show last night with Andy. I was very bullish on the Ravens here. And one of the reasons was because Lamar Jackson was limited in practice Wednesday instead of DNP. He had been DNP in Wednesday practices for 3 weeks. First it was a knee, then an ankle, then a toe, and now he's back to an ankle. And he was limited instead of DNP. So I'm like, oh, that's a sign that he's getting healthier. But he was DNP today. So I suspect that he's going to be practicing tomorrow and he's going to play in this game. But I don't know. The DNP here scares me. We hadn't seen that. We've seen DNP full every single time. We hadn't seen DNP on Thursday. So if he's not healthy, this could be Tyler. This could be Huntley. So at 5.5, you can't really lay 5.5, or maybe you'll tell me otherwise. With Huntley, it's just, I mean, you're going to get a better number anyway. So, but I do want to fade the Steelers. The Steelers are a complete mess right now. I don't know if you saw the stat or heard it last night on the show. Aaron Rodgers in last week's game didn't complete a pass over the line of scrimmage until the third quarter. Mm-hmm. Like he is not healthy at all. He aggravated his hand in the third quarter, that first drive. And they did nothing against Buffalo's defense. And Buffalo defense is not even that good. They were ranked like 23rd in EPA heading into the week. The Ravens are in the top 10 according to EPA since week 8, since they all came back from the bye, from injury after the bye. So I really don't see Pittsburgh's offense doing anything here. And even if it's Huntley, I think there's a decent chance the Ravens cover this number, kind of like they did against Chicago. But my point is that we're going to get a better number anyway if Huntley's announced. So either way, I like Baltimore. Pittsburgh has a bunch of injuries defensively. Looks like TJ Watt's going to play. He was DNP Wednesday, but he's full today, so he's going to play. But Derek Harmon was DNP twice. You had Kyle Duggar was downgraded to DNP. Patrick Queen looks very flimsy to play. Metcalf, I don't think is 100%. Yeah, I like Baltimore, and maybe we'll get some clarity with Jackson tomorrow. But what are your thoughts on this game?
Well, first of all, I'm going to assume that Jackson's going to play because he's
Yeah.
got the extra time since last week. He hasn't been running at all. So I'm going to assume he's playing, and I'm going to assume he's going to play similar to the way he's played for the last 3 or 4 weeks, where he's throwing the ball, not running the ball.
Mhm.
So which is a problem. But that being said, I still like the Ravens a lot. Now, I was on the Ravens last year. We had arguments about this game in the playoffs as well as the one in the regular season. Everyone says, oh, Ravens Steelers is always close. Not in Baltimore, not with Lamar in Baltimore, at least. Lamar kills them. Now, I still have to believe he's going to play. They're tied for the division. This is the game they've circled 8 weeks ago, when they're 1-5. They said, all right, we got to get to December 7th. We're going to be playing Pittsburgh. Hopefully we'll be in the mix. Hopefully we'll be a game either tied or a game back, and this is the game that gets us over the hump. So I fully expect him to play. I thought you were going to talk about the stat of Rodgers that over the last, I think since maybe the last 15 years or 25 years, he has the percentage of yards for him after the catch is about 67%. And of 713 quarterbacks over this time span, only A.J. Feely, I think in 2011, that's why I'm not sure if it's a 15-year stat or if it goes back even further, but in 2011, A.J. Feely had a higher percentage of yards that were after the catch. Rodgers, all he does is check down. Everything is a short pass at the line of scrimmage or a check down. He's done. He's done. Rudolph's done. The defense stinks. I think this game is going to be ugly. I think the Ravens are going to win this game by 2 touchdowns or more. If Lamar were healthy, if this were like old school Ravens, this game to me could be like 34-10. I tried to convince you last week to take Buffalo, not because Buffalo I thought was good, and we knew Buffalo had some injuries, especially to both tackles. But to me, the line last week was 3. Who's Pittsburgh to be underdogs by 3 points against a quality team? Now, I still think the Ravens are an above-average football team. I liked the Bengals last week. I did have Cincinnati available. Theoretically, I could have taken a 7-point dog in Survivor, which we were never going to do. But I did think Cincinnati actually had a real shot to win last week. I don't think Pittsburgh has a chance to win this week. I think this game is going to be ugly. We saw last week Buffalo without their tackles ran for 250 yards in the game. So this is going to be a Henry game, Henry's script. And if Isaiah Likely doesn't fumble a 50-yard pass into the end zone, or if Lamar doesn't take a bad strip sack fumble, that's the only recipe for Pittsburgh to win this game, is getting to Lamar and letting him or having him turn the ball over on his own 20-yard line, or Henry fumbling or Likely fumbling and taking points off the board for Baltimore on the other end. So outside of Pittsburgh getting weird turnovers like they did against the Colts, like they did against New England, where New England fumbled the ball 4 times, including a pick in the end zone and a fumble going into the end zone. Outside of those fluky fumbles and fluky turnovers, I think the Ravens easily win this game. Now, if we find out that it's Huntley starting, I'm probably not willing to lay 6. That line probably drops to like 3.5, I would say, maybe 2-3 points. I don't think it's a huge downgrade from Lamar, who's not running, to Huntley. As crazy as that sounds. If Lamar is not running, he's an average at best quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But Pittsburgh's garbage.
They are. They're terrible. I put them in Group D. I think they deserve to be there. They're not quite Group F, but they do some things well. They rush the passer pretty well on the edge and whatnot. But actually, that's all they do well. They don't do anything else well. This team is absolutely terrible. They have no offense at all. D is in dog.
Oh, yeah. I see you have them in Group C as number 20. I have Pittsburgh number 23.
Oh, okay. I maybe that's an old version. I forgot to update the newer one because I did mark them down to Group D. I was talking to Andy yesterday about them being Group D as well. So it looks like I didn't update it. So yeah, they should be in Group D. Okay. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I probably have them around 23, 24 as well. So, yeah, we agree on this one. Baltimore -5.5. That's the number in the contest. So, we like that. But we'll definitely monitor the quarterback injury. The Jackson downgrade kind of threw me off, but I think it'll be okay. All right, next game is Seahawks at the Falcons. This line is Seahawks -7. There's a couple 6.5s out there. It was 7.5 for what it's worth. Now, the spot here is awful for Seattle. They're coming off the revenge game for Sam Darnold, and then after this game, they have the 8-4 Colts, and then the Rams within a. Those games are going to be within 96 hours of one another. So that's going to be like quite the gauntlet. So this definitely a look ahead here, and also look behind with the revenge. So I wanted to find like another reason to take the Falcons. I'm not just going to take the Falcons just on spot. And I thought that maybe we'd get an injured Sam Darnold because there was word that he injured his toe at the end of the game. But he's not on the injury report at all. I'm not seeing him there. So I guess he's fine. So I don't know what else, what other case you can make for Atlanta. Drake London's not going to play.
Is he not going to play?
Well, he's DNP twice so far, so I assume he's going to be out. But I don't know. Maybe he's going to be a surprise active. But yeah, he is not practiced yet, so I wouldn't think he's going to play. The one advantage the Falcons have in this game is Seattle's awful against tight ends. Kyle Pitts should have a good game. He had a good game against Seattle last year. But that's it, really. I mean, Seattle's great defensively. Bijan Robinson's not going to find much on the ground. As a receiver out of the backfield, he should. I mean, Seattle linebackers are great in run support, bad in coverage, so that's why they're bad against tight ends. But, like, I don't know. I mean, because if Seattle does not if they do take this game seriously, they should be able to name the score almost. But if they are flat, then Atlanta could get them, kind of like the Panthers did against the Rams last week. So, yeah, what are your thoughts here? I don't really have a strong opinion here. I would lean. Actually, I don't even know where. I think I'm actually like leaning Seattle at this point, but I don't know where I'm going.
Did you just change your mind on the fly?
No, no, it was yesterday. I was talking about it with Andy. I don't know.
I've wavered back and forth. I'm leaning Atlanta. If you're asking Atlanta to win a game, that's a problem because they have no coach. Yeah. I assume that Raheem Morris will be fired as soon as the season's over. If he's not, that's strange. But yeah. I assume that he'll be fired. They don't have a coach. They continue to blow games late. But their defense competes. Now, let's throw the Jets game out because they held the Jets to 4.3 yards per play. It doesn't really matter. I'm not impressed. But they did keep games close. They kept the Indy game close, although that was overseas. That was a close game. They lost by 1 on a missed extra point in New England. So obviously that was a close game. They beat Buffalo at home. So their defense has the ability to show up. And Seattle has not played well lately. Now, they didn't really have to play well last week. They're up 20. They win 26-0. Brosmer hands them 7 points early in the game. And the game from there is just over. The Tennessee game also. I know they won by 6. They were up 30-10. So it's hard to really put stock into these games. But their offense hasn't been great. Now, the Rams game, Darnold threw 4 picks. So obviously their offense didn't click, but when he didn't throw picks, they were fine. But he has the potential to throw 2 or 3 interceptions. So I think Atlanta's defense at home could keep this game relatively close. You mentioned the look-ahead spot, the revenge factor with the Rams coming up in a couple weeks. Who do they play next week? Seattle?
Colts.
No, they play the Colts and then the Rams. Okay.
Yeah.
The Colts and then the Rams. I can't lay 7 points on the road with this team. To me, I don't think I would take this as a contest pick, but I think the line's a little high.
Yeah, I can see it being a little high. Wait, let me see what I made this line. I made this line 7 exactly. So I guess I made it right where it should be. It's just like Seattle, great matchup edge, but poor spot edge, you know. And like I said, that Rams, the Colts Rams gauntlet they have is within 96 hours of each other. It's the Thursday game, so they're basically preparing for 2 games ahead of this one. So I don't, and I know that Andy's saying that Seattle controls its own destiny, but I don't know. I mean, how do you take Atlanta seriously? I just don't know. Like we just saw Atlanta lose to the Jets. Like Seattle's looking at a team that lost to the Jets. Like all right, we'll win this game. We'll be fine. And then we have to worry about Colts Rams. So I don't know.
Well, controlling your own destiny to me is not a factor in a handicap here because the Rams control their own destiny, the Niners control their destiny, the Bears control their destiny. To me, that's irrelevant. What's relevant here is the line to cover. I think Seattle wins the game. I'm confident Seattle is going to win the game. If you want to tease Seattle, you could tease Seattle to win the game. But now you're asking them to cover. They didn't cover against Tennessee. They gave up the back door basically twice. And Atlanta has shown the ability to play close against better competition. They played well against Buffalo. They played well against New England. They played well against Indianapolis. Seattle may be better than some of those teams. Maybe they're not better than Buffalo. I don't think Seattle's better than Buffalo, but it would not shock me if the Falcons won the game. It would not shock me if Darnold threw 2 picks in the red zone and took points off the board. And it would not shock me if Bijan had a big game running. So I'm not laying 7 with Seattle just because they're the better team and they have the matchup edges.
Yeah, I think at this point you can't be shocked by any result. We saw the Panthers beat the Rams last week, and that was a bigger upset.
So. I was shocked.
Yeah, yeah. I guess we'll talk about the Rams later, but I guess we're not talking about the Panthers because they're on bye. But Andy said this yesterday, and I totally agreed. Maybe the worst 7-6 team of all time. They how are they 7-6? It just seems like I don't know. It's just absolutely ridiculous that they have the sort of record. Kevin, $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Kevin. He says, which team is Raheem coaching? Bet the mortgage. Yes, yeah. I feel like if you just bet against Raheem Morris all the time, you've done well. Dennis Allen was the sort of coach where he just had an abysmal ATS record. I feel like Raheem Morris off a win would be even worse. I don't even know what that is, but I assume it's just a terrible record. So, I agree with that. And he says, remember, Dolphins at Atlanta, this team is cooked. They are. And Andy has the stats here, games 1-6. Defense of Atlanta allowed 265 yards per game, weeks 7 through 12. Or game 7 through 12, they allowed 372, which is a decrease of 170 yards per game. So they've certainly gotten worse defensively in the second half of the season.
They were missing Divine Diablo for some of those games, who's a big part of their defense. Not that one player really makes that much of a difference. We're not talking about Myles Garrett or an Aaron Donald type of player, but he's still a pretty impact player on the defense. And they had to go against Carolina, so that's unfair. It skews their statistics in the wrong direction when you have to play the mighty Bryce Youngs. I just think that they've been competitive against good teams. Yeah.
For the most part, yeah. McDonald versus Raheem is worth a field goal or more. What else might be worth something? I don't know how much. Maybe it's nothing, but we talked about how the West Coast teams playing on the East Coast at 1 o'clock really struggled in the past. They've gotten a lot better. Like Sean McVay has a good record. Kyle Shanahan has a good record. It's a small sample size, but Mike McDonald's 4-0 against the spread in these 1 o'clock East Coast games. So, like I said, small sample size, and this is probably the biggest favorite he's been. Although maybe not. But still, he's done well in these situations. So. I don't know.
I still think when you talk about a coaching edge, it's more important to look at the coaching edge in a game that's lined around pick'em or 3, because now you're talking about game clock management situation, winning and losing in the final drive. Like last week, we saw the Falcons blow the last situation, giving the Jets the ball back with a chance to win the game in regulation. Right. That being said, that's one of the reasons why I heavily like Seattle to win, but they don't have to cover. So the coaching edge goes out the window a little bit when you talk about a team that has to win by a margin.
Yeah, that non-overtime last week was brutal because we laddered Bijan Robinson of rushing yards, and he was he finished at 144.
We still hit the overs, but we didn't get to 150 or the
175 plus was like 11-1 or something, and like if that game we went to overtime, that we had a great chance of getting that one. So it's a shame it didn't happen. I was so mad when the Falcons allowed that last drive to the Jets. Anyway, let's move on here. Colts at the Jaguars. This line is still Colts -1.5. I can't believe the Colts are favored in this game. They have the same. Okay, they have the same record. It's not like the Jaguars are like 6-6 or 5-7. The Colts have a quarterback with a fractured leg, and he did not run at all last week. He played poorly. He had a couple of good drives here and there, but like overall, he did not do well. And a correction here: Seattle was -12.5 at Tennessee. That wasn't a 1 o'clock East Coast game. That's Central Time. But yeah, I see what you're saying. So yeah, they covered that one. Oh no, they didn't cover that one. It was a backdoor cover at the end. So anyway, yeah, that's why that didn't count. So anyway, so like I said, Daniel Jones fractured leg here. The Colts also without their top 2 defensive players. Sauce Gardner got knocked out last week. DeForest Buckner has been out for a few weeks. Their run defense has gotten worse without Buckner. But I was like, okay, at least they have Gardner to fix the pass defense. But now Gardner's out. So they're missing their 2 best defensive players, and they're going against a Jacksonville team that's improved offensively ever since they got Jacoby Myers, who has been so good for Lawrence. I talked about this last night, where Lawrence has not had like professional receivers. He's had talented receivers, but not professional receivers. Like, for example, Brian Thomas Jr. drops everything. Travis Hunter has not known where to line up, and they've taken delay game penalties. Before that, they had Calvin Ridley, who's like an enigma in the locker room, and just you can't rely on him. He drops passes too. Christian Kirk was in and out of the lineup. He was never healthy. It was his like most reliable receiver, like Zay Jones. He finally has a guy he can count on in Jacoby Myers, who does not drop passes. He didn't drop a single pass last year. He is definitely Mr. Reliable. And Lawrence hasn't had that. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Jacksonville's offense has improved ever since they got Myers, and he's integrated into the offense, which he continues to do every week. So we have a team that's ascending, I think, in Jacksonville, a team that's descending, the Colts, with an injured Jones and the injured defensive players. And to top it off, the Colts have not won in Jacksonville since 2014. Like they weren't even winning here when Andrew Luck was playing. I don't know why. It's like their house of horrors for some reason. They just can't win in Jacksonville, and they're favored. They're favored in this game with a quarterback with a fractured leg. Like I don't understand what's going on here. I love Jacksonville, but let me know what you think about this game.
So I don't love anybody.
Okay.
I think this is the biggest coin flip of the entire week, and I don't really have a strong handicap, but I'll point to your power rankings, because you said, how is this line 1.5?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to pull up your power rankings, you, like me, have the Colts in the top 10. I have the Colts number 7. Now, that's with a fractured leg, because we've seen that Daniel Jones is not moving the same. He was fine last week, other than the fact that he wasn't moving around. He threw the ball nicely. You can make an argument they should have won the game. It was a delay of game at the end of the game that wasn't called, and on that delay of game from Houston, there was a phantom PI that was thrown that led to points. So where do you have the Colts in there? I think you have them. You dropped them all the way to 18, previously 7.
Yeah.
So you moved that around. Okay, so you have Jacksonville now ahead of them. I have Jacksonville number 19. I have them still as a slightly below average football team, and I have the Colts with their downgrade. I think this line is correct. I think they should be favored by 1.5. I've gone both ways. Obviously, they could have beaten the Chiefs. They did not play well in the fourth quarter. Whether he had a fractured leg at that point, we don't know. He certainly wasn't moving around as much in that game. Last week, he wasn't moving at all. Didn't run at all. Their third downs obviously take a big hit. They were 3 for 10 on third down last week. They were 0 for 2 on fourth. Much easier to pick up those third or fourth downs when you have a mobile quarterback. The Jacksonville defense has been good, but they've been a very inconsistent team. Outside of their blowout win against the Chargers, they've had a lot of fluky wins. The Kansas City game was a fluky game weeks ago. You mentioned injuries to Sauce Gardner and DeForest Buckner. What about Eric Armstead and Trayvon Walker and Parker Washington? I know Myers has been good, but Parker Washington's been Trevor Lawrence's number 1 target. Also, their the tackle Little got banged up last week, was knocked out of the game. So that's a big concern for me. So I don't love Jacksonville in this game. I think this is a complete toss-up game. I said last week or the week before, the Colts have a very tough schedule going forward. When they were 8-2, there was a scenario where I said they could finish 9-8 and not make the playoffs. If they lose this game, they're really at risk of not making the postseason. Just pulling up their schedule. Who do they play next? We said they play at Seattle, and they play the Niners. They play Jacksonville again at home, and then they go on the road to Houston. There's a world they can lose every single game. So maybe this is my bias from what I said earlier, that I'm kind of rooting more towards the teams that I think are better overall teams. Like, I don't want to see Jacksonville in the playoffs. Jacksonville wins this game, there's a good chance they win in the division. If Jacksonville loses this game, still kind of all bets are off. You kind of have a 3-way tie right now between these two teams and the Texans. So I definitely don't love the Jaguars. I definitely don't see a world where Jacksonville, if you say I love Jacksonville to win, that means you think Jacksonville should be favored by like a good 3 points, right? Otherwise, between +1.5, -1.5, it's a pick'em game. So it's a coin flip game. So if you think Jacksonville should be favored by 3 and you really like them to win, then okay, so you're getting a little bit of value. Maybe they lose the game by 1, fine. Obviously, any win by 1, you're still good. I think this is a toss-up game. I think this is a field goal game either direction. I think this game will be tied late. I don't trust Jacksonville with a lead. I don't trust the Colts right now either with a quarterback that's immobile. But that's why this is my number 14 game on the card. I would tease Jacksonville. I would play Jacksonville getting more than 7 points. I don't think I would play the same for the Colts because I would worry that a situation like the Charger game could happen. If you told me one team won by 14, I would be confident that it's not the Colts winning by 14. But I wouldn't pick a game. I wouldn't pick a winner.
Okay, yeah, this is one of my top plays of the week. I love Jacksonville here. I don't see how Daniel Jones survives this with a win. I mean, the Jaguars, what they do best defensively is rush the passer, and Jones can't move. I just feel like the Colts are just going to have so many non-drives. Jacksonville's decent against the run, and yeah, like I said, they don't win here. Even when they've had Andrew Luck, they haven't won there. So I don't get why they were favored on the road. I just don't. I think this year's about even.
Jones was pressured last week 16 times. He completed 6 out of 15, so not good. But he didn't throw any picks. He had no picks in the game. He did not lead a game-winning drive late. They moved the ball, but then they ended up stalling on a 4th and 9. So I give him credit for not turning the ball over. He had a good chance to win that game. Like I said, Houston had the benefit of a delay of game that wasn't called and then a PI on the same play, which obviously should have been a delay game and shouldn't have been a PI anyway. I just think it's a toss-up game. I think the spread is correct.
Yeah, well, this is Daniel Jones. I think the turnovers are coming. I promise you. We'll see the turnovers. I don't see. I just don't see why one team is better than the other here. Like, what do the Colts do so much better than Jaguars, except for running the ball? I mean, the Jaguars have a good run defense. Like, I don't know. I feel like these teams are even like I said. You mentioned Parker Washington. Like, I think Myers is overtaking him as the number 1 receiver there. And Eric Armstead, 2 limited practices so far. It's a hand injury. Like, I feel like he could play. Walker Little is DNP twice, sure. But Trayvon Walker is limited today, so he might be coming back. So, yeah, it looks like the worst guy is Walker Little with the 2 DNPs of concussion. So he's going to be out. But the other guys could play. Yeah, and Sauce Gardner is going to be out, so that is the biggest injury. So
yeah, I think our difference is that you have them pretty much equal, and I don't. I downgrade the Colts like 2 points because of the injury. I still have them as an above average top 10 football team. I don't think they're a contender. I don't think they're winning the AFC, but I still think they're in the top 10. And I don't even have Jacksonville above average. I think Jacksonville is one of those very overrated teams, very inconsistent. Defense has played well, but outside of the Chargers game, there's not a game in there that impresses me.
What outside of Taylor, why do you think the Colts are a top 10 team? Just kind of curious.
Well, they've been we moved them in the power rankings into a top 10 team early in the season, and now the only reason to downgrade them is because of the injury, and we don't know when that injury even occurred. We know that he's not running as much. It's hard to quantify what that's worth to a spread. They were beating the Chiefs 21-9 in the 4th quarter. Now, they blew the game. They didn't get a first down after that happened. Maybe that's Kansas City. Maybe that's the ghosts of Kansas City. But they're still a good football team. Last week, they played an even game against Houston, who I still think I've had all year round in that 12-13 range, slightly above average. That game was a back-and-forth game. Either team could have won that game. I don't downgrade the Colts significantly off of that. When they got Sauce, I raised them by 0.5 point. Now I took away 0.5 point. So I still think they're a good football team, I think, overall. Now, when the clock strikes midnight and Daniel Jones turns into the Daniel Jones of old, and we see that he's throwing picks like he did in the Pittsburgh game, outside of the Pittsburgh game, he's been great all season. So, I mean, after the season, they're the number 1 offense in the league. And granted, they're not the number 1 offense right now, but I don't think they're far from it. And Jacksonville, to me, is just too inconsistent.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Colts and they lost to the Steelers. And at the time, we're like, they were looking ahead. But then they almost lost.
They had 6 turnovers in the game.
Yeah. Well, and then they almost lose to Atlanta in overtime, and we're like, okay, that's an international game. And then they blew the lead to the Chiefs, where at the end, I'm sure Jones got hurt toward the end, because I actually want to go back and see when he stopped scrambling. I suspect that happened in the second half. And then last week they lose to Houston at home. So they haven't played a good game in a long time. It's been a long time since the Colts have had a good game. When was the last time they had a convincing victory? I'm going to look at their.
They had, well, Tennessee. That was 5 weeks ago. Yeah, obviously they've lost 3 out of 4, so they haven't had a convincing victory in a month.
Yeah,
but they haven't done wrong that would make me say, you know what, this team is below average football team, and I think Jacksonville's below average football team. I have them minus a half.
Yeah,
I have them at number 19.
Yeah, October 26th is the last time the Colts had a nice win. That's a long time. Let's see. Don saying must win to make the playoffs. Should I rock Hurts or Burrow? Then I don't know. I got Achane, Genty, Pittman, Puka, then McBride, and Harvey as a flex. Should I put Hampton in somewhere? Well, we haven't gotten confirmation that Hampton's going to play, right? And we don't know how much of a factor he's going to be. Also, the Eagles. We'll talk about the Eagles, but I'm sure they're going to be. Well, I'm not sure. They could be playing for pride, right? After allowing all those rushing yards. So it depends on what you think there. But outside of just looking at you can't slot him in for Pittman because you need to start him at receiver. So you're looking at either replacing him, either HN, which you definitely would not do, or Genty. I think you could make a case for Hampton over Genty because it is Denver's run defense, but at the same time, if this is PPR, then Genty's catching passes. He's catching like 5 or 6 passes every week. So if it's PPR, I wouldn't put Hampton in over Genty. And then Harvey's a great matchup. So I would leave Hampton out. And then for your quarterback situation, I would go with Burrow. Hurts is not running, and he has a tougher matchup with the Chargers compared to Burrow versus the Bills. So
I want to bring you back to Jacksonville for a moment. We talked about who they played. Yeah. So both teams blew out Tennessee. So we're going to throw last week's game out because Tennessee doesn't count. That's a JV football team, so the game doesn't count. The week before, they barely beat Arizona in a game that went back and forth. They tried to lose. Then they killed the Chargers. Okay, great win. Dominated the Chargers. Blew a big lead against Davis Mills. Not impressive. Beat the Raiders 30-29. So I rest my case right there. 30-29 against the Raiders. This is an average at best football team. And like I said, the pick'em spot, whether it's -1.5, +1.5, to me, flip a coin. Unless we see that Jones gets knocked out and he physically can't play and he looks like Aaron Rodgers or he looks like Max Brosmer, right? And he didn't look like that last week. He threw the ball nicely. He had a great throw to Pierce in the end zone for a touchdown. He had some plays to Warren that were really nice. They still have Taylor. I think it's going to be one of those really weird, crazy, back and forth 27-24 games. And I don't know who's going to win. So I'm not telling you you're wrong. I just think it's going to be a coin flip.
My case for Jacksonville, if you look at their games, my case for them was that they've improved a lot with Myers ever since he was integrated into the offense. That's like a legit receiver that Lawrence has that he hasn't had in a long time. Also, they were missing Brian Thomas Jr. for a lot of those games too. So like Thomas is kind of if you look at Liam Cohen's offenses, he's basically the Mike Evans role where he's just running downfield, and Myers is operating as Chris Godwin was last year before Godwin got hurt, where Godwin is actually outproducing Mike Evans. And so it feels like Liam Cohen finally got his receivers in play, because he had Hunter for a while, and that was stupid what he was doing. Not playing Hunter on defense was dumb this year, maybe down the road, but he's trying to learn receiver. He doesn't know where to line up that really disrupted them. And then Thomas is dropping a lot of passes, but at least they have Myers now, who could be a real weapon. And then Brenton Strange came back too. Lawrence loves Strange. So I just think this offense has gotten so much better recently with Strange coming back, Thomas coming back, Myers integrated. It just seems like they're so much better offensively now, and I think that that projects well going forward, especially against this defense that doesn't have Buckner or Gardner. So
I'm excited for the game. I really am. I think it's going to be a great game.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a playoff game. The winner of this game is in. The loser is Might be looking outside looking at.
Yeah, I do have a bet on Jacksonville to win the division, which I
I have
placed back in.
Houston plus 750.
Oh, nice. I placed Jacksonville around July or end of July, early August. So rooting for them. All right. We have Saints and Buccaneers here. This is not one of the best games of the week.
Did you skip a game?
Sorry, what?
Oh, you're going. Okay, you're going 1 o'clock. All right.
Yeah,
I'm
we're
going
gonna
rotation order.
go chronologically. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. Saints of the Buccaneers. Buccaneers are -8.5. So to me, I like the difference here because I took the Saints against the Dolphins last week. I was pretty confident in it. And I said the Saints and the Dolphins are not too far apart. Like I think the Dolphins were like 1 point better or something. But here there is a disparity. It's quite a big disparity now. But Tampa has not played well recently. Baker Mayfield doesn't seem like he's 100%. They have other injuries. They've been missing defensive players. Now Tristan Wirfs hasn't practiced yet this week. So I kind of worry that Tampa could potentially, I don't know if they're going to lose this game, but like it'll be close. And kind of like last year, week 18, when they hosted Spencer Rattler and they almost lost the game because they crushed New Orleans earlier in the year, and I think they took them lightly. The same thing could happen here. They do have Atlanta and Carolina coming up. Now Atlanta's, you could argue, not worth looking ahead toward, but Atlanta's better than New Orleans, and then obviously the Panthers. That could be for the division. So I don't know if Tampa's just going to be fully focused for this game, even though it's a divisional game. But 8.5 is a lot. So, but then again, I don't want to take the Saints just because there's a huge discrepancy in talent in this game. So to me, this is you talked about Jacksonville, Indianapolis being your 14th game. This is my 14th game. I don't really see a side I like here. I don't even remember who I wrote up on the site. I think it was Saints, maybe. I'm not even sure. What are your thoughts on this game?
Well, I wouldn't use this as a contest pick, but I lean to the Bucks because I made the line 10, and New Orleans, like Tennessee, to me is in the bottom 2 of the league. New Orleans was down 16-0 last week, and that game wouldn't have been close, except Miami's game plan was a huge mistake. I was betting Achane mid-game on the live rushing, and they would come out every drive and let Tua throw the ball. And Tua was awful in that game. Mm-hmm. So Tua single-handedly brought New Orleans back into the game. So I don't think that's going to happen here. The Bucks dominated the Saints in the first matchup defensively. Their offense was not great. They won, I think it was 23-9. It was 23-3 or 23-9? It was 23-3. Their defense was awesome. Their offense was crap. Now guys are coming back, maybe get some receivers back. Baker, another week removed from the sprained shoulder. I think Tampa puts up 27, 30 points on the Saints. I know the Saints defense has played better. We've talked about them competing, but I think this is a week where Tampa kind of gets back on track a little bit more. And, they're off a very poor game last week. So they allowed Arizona to move the ball at will. They won by 3. They were up more. I know they kind of gave up those points late, but they didn't play well last week. I expect them to play much better this week. It is a divisional game. They do need the game. I don't think they're looking ahead to the Carolina games. I think right now they got to take care of business. They're not in a position where they can look ahead. So I think New Orleans is going to be down big, and I don't see the back door here like it was last week. I lean to the Bucks. I made the line 10, but we don't have to spend too much time on it because I don't think this would be a contest pick for me either.
Yeah, the one injury update from yesterday, Chris Olave was DNP Wednesday, but he was limited today. So kind of like the same thing from last week. So I would assume he's going to play. If Olave were out, then I think I would switch to Tampa for sure. Just because the Saints wouldn't have any weapons. Devon Bailey is gonna lead a comeback here. I don't think so. All right, so the last of the 1 o'clock games, Bengals at the Bills. This line is Bills -5.5. This is an absolute horror show for any Bills fan, including John Sanders, our resident Bills fan, who said last week that he's absolutely terrified of this game, 10 out of 10. And I understand why. The Bengals have owned the Bills. Also, the Bills defense hasn't played well. They are awful against the run. And sometimes their pass defense is suspect. And I think that Joe Burrow, who's had success here, could do well. He's going to be better in his second game back. We don't know about Higgins yet. T. Higgins in practice was limited, but then full. So it sounds like there's a good chance he's going to return. So Cincinnati is going to be a full strength, potentially. On offense, at least. Defensively, Hendrickson's probably going to miss again. He hasn't practiced yet, but I don't know if this is a fluke or if I'm reading into something I shouldn't be reading into, but past two games, Cincinnati's defense has actually played pretty well. They limited the Patriots offense and the Baltimore offense. Like, these are not like, they didn't play like Tennessee and New Orleans. Like, they played against Lamar Jackson and Drake May. Like, and they were good. Again, maybe it's a fluke. Maybe they're going to regress here. I could totally see that happening, but I don't really know what's going on. Yeah, I'm leaning towards Cincinnati here, plus 5.5. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And this is really the wrong matchup for Buffalo. Cincinnati is they went in there in a playoff game and dominated Buffalo in Buffalo. The back door is certainly going to be open. We know Cincinnati is going to compete. Their defense has played better. This is the type of game where one of two things can happen. Either Buffalo can run all over them and be very content like they were last week, just running the football. They don't have to score 30 points. This is not the Buffalo of last year or the year before that puts up 40 points just for fun, although they did against Carolina. And they did against Tampa because Tampa kept scoring. If Cincinnati could put up 27 points in this game, 30 points in this game could be 34-30 or 31-27. And it could be 31-20 with the back door being open for Cincinnati to cover. And if Buffalo has the ball, they're content to run the ball. So I would lean to Cincinnati. I don't love it because, let's be fair, Cincinnati wasn't really sharp last week. That was more Baltimore making mistakes. The likely fumble into the end zone was a mistake. They had a couple of fumbles. Now, Cincinnati earned the win. There was nothing fluky about the win. They shouldn't have won 32, whatever the score was. What was that score last week?
32-14.
32-14. I don't think they should have won by 18 points, but they definitely earned the win. It would not shock me if Cincinnati won this game. Like they did the same thing last year. They come out, they compete, they have nothing to lose. The defense is playing better. And the other thing that I mentioned is one of two things can happen. Allen has been making silly turnovers. It's really, Cook's fumbled a bunch of times. Allen's thrown the ball in harm's way. He rifles the ball over the middle sometimes. For no reason on 3rd and 3, I find myself, I watched a lot of the games with my son, and I'll say, what is he doing on 3rd and 3? Why are we chucking the ball down? And sometimes he makes those crazy plays, and he completes a 40-yard touchdown pass on 3rd and 3 instead of taking the first down, which is wide open, using his legs or hitting a check down or hitting. I saw Kincaid practice, even if it's not Kincaid, hitting Cook out of the backfield. So I don't see sometimes why the Bills do the things that they do. And when they fall behind, he tries to play hero ball and get it all back in one shot. So if Cincinnati gets the ball first, 7-0, I wouldn't want any part of Buffalo laying points. So I would be concerned. I feel like they would get tight in a situation where they're behind. Mm-hmm. So I lean to the Bengals. Do I love it as a contest pick? I don't think it was a top 5 pick, but it's definitely a pick that I can see putting into the contest in some capacity.
Okay, we'll put this in the maybe pile. Right now we had 2 definites and 3 maybes, so just to run that down after the 1 o'clock games, because we only have a handful of 4 o'clock games and then the 2 night games. So definitely on the same side here. If Cincinnati wins this game, that next week against Baltimore is gonna be huge. It could be the Bengals not overtaking, but they'll need to make up one more game against Baltimore, at least if Baltimore wins this week. So that'll make things very interesting. So all right, let's get to the 4 o'clock games. We have Denver at Las Vegas. The Broncos are favored by 7.5. I'm like, this is a funny game because I'm like looking at the matchups and I'm like, how do the Raiders stay competitive? How do they keep this close? Because you have the Raiders defense, which Max Crosby, by the way, did not practice today. But I don't know. He was limited in DMP. We'll see what happens Friday. But the Raiders defense sucks outside of Crosby. They can't stop anything. And it's like, okay, Denver has players to take advantage of that. RJ Harvey, they're good receivers. Bo Nix is sometimes a mess, but sometimes plays well. He's so consistent. And then the other side of the ball, I just no hope. The Raiders offensive line is a complete disaster. It could get worse than it's already been because they're already without their top 2 guys, Colton Miller and Jackson Powers-Johnson. And then last week, they had Jordan Meredith, who didn't play. He was limited so far twice this week. Dylan Parham missed practice Wednesday. He's limited today. So if one of those guys is out again, or both guys are out again, or both those guys are out, that'll be an absolute disaster against the Denver pass rush that has the most sacks in the NFL. So I'm looking at all this. I'm like, the Raiders can't cover this, can't they? With the matchup so bad, and then I'm like, oh wait, 10-7 happens. I just like you can't. I just can't trust this Denver team to cover these high lines like all year. And even like if you want to exclude Week 1, that's fine. But they still didn't distance themselves from Tennessee. Fine, but the other games like 13-11 against the Jets, 10-7 against the Raiders. Last week, 27-26 against the Redskins. Against the Giants, they're down 19-0. Like this team is just so hard to trust as a big favorite. I can't lay 7.5. But I can't take the Raiders either because like they are absolutely awful. They can't block, and that could just blow up in our faces. Like if we take the Raiders, like Geno Smith has strip sack, fumble, return for a touchdown, and then they're down and they just have no hope because they can't score. So I don't even like this. This is another one where I was kind of like unsure of what to do. I think that potentially I think I could side with the Broncos in like an office pool setting. But I can't, I don't know. I wrote up Raiders on the site, but it's truly like back and forth for me. Do you feel stronger about this game or are you mixed feelings as well?
No, I feel strongly that it's going to be a shitty game. And I like the under, and I most definitely like the Raider under. Now, I don't think Geno gets sacked 10 times like he did in the Thursday night game, but he got sacked 10 times and they scored 7 points. That makes sense. Denver only scored 10. Nix was awful last week. Let's be fair. He's colorblind. He didn't see Frankie Louvu over the middle of the field. There's nobody within sight of Frankie Louvu, and he basically handed him the ball. To his credit, Nix has been clutch. In situations where they'd have to have one drive at the end of a game, he's led them on drives. Although sometimes he's thrown the ball awry, and guys like Troy Franklin are making plays for him. But if he doesn't have to make those plays, and they could just run the ball and run the clock, we mentioned earlier, Denver played 160 snaps in a grueling overtime game on a Sunday night, and now they have to turn around and play whatever it is 6 days later off that overtime. That's not a great spot to be in. I know it's a road game. It's going to be a home crowd for Denver, but they still have to travel. Granted, it's not a very far travel, but you're still leaving your town. You're getting on a plane, traveling. I don't think there's any reason for giving margin here. I would be on the dog in an office pool. I would not bet this game. I have $0 on this game. Zero, nothing. I didn't want to bet it, and I just feel like this is a game to completely avoid. Because if Geno does get sacked 7 times or more, I can't see them scoring. So if I'm betting this game, it's betting the Raiders under, and that's it.
Team total under Raiders. Maybe
team total under. Yep.
Tease the Broncos. Tease the Broncos if you get -120 vig somewhere, if that still exists.
I get 110. I have one shop that gives me 110 on 6-point teasers.
Wow, that's amazing.
Anyone who's playing teasers at the wrong prices is a fool.
Yeah.
I know FanDuel, sometimes we talk about 13-point teasers. FanDuel offers them at 175. I play those at -$1.30.
That's like that -110 price. It's kind of like hit me, kind of like, remembering McDonald's cheeseburgers used to be 59 cents. Like, oh, I get -110 on teasers. It's like, wait, what happened here? The Federal Reserve not inflate the line at the sportsbook. So
some books didn't adjust. So now if you go to Vegas, a lot of those 6-point teasers are -25 or worse, and the math doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. So you might as well just bet the money line on Denver.
Yeah, no, seriously. Yeah, I think DraftKings and FanDuel both have -130 for teasers, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't even checked for. I checked at the beginning of the year. I don't know if they've changed it, but that's at least what they were before. All right, let's go to the next game. We have Bears at the Packers. The Packers are -6.5. Bears coming off an impressive win against the Eagles. And, they had a negative point differential heading into the game. It's not the case anymore, but it's still pretty close to being negative. And it could be negative after this game, which is kind of nuts for a 9-4 team. But, Chicago, one thing Chicago does really well is run block. Like, we talk about all the time how like Ashton Genty has nothing in the backfield. Like he has a negative yards before contact. Like he's dodging defenders in the backfield. Saquon Barkley, second worst. The Bears with DeAndre Swift is the third best yards before contact. Kyle Monangai, fourth best yards before contact. These guys just get such great running lanes. And Chicago, I think, can really make things difficult for the Packers at the run. and the Packers lost a defensive lineman last week, so that could be a good situation here for Chicago. Now, I don't trust Caleb Williams, especially if Roma Dunze may not play. He was DNP twice so far. So Caleb could potentially throw this game away, even though he's been playing better somewhat here and there. Definitely better than last year, at least. And then the Packers they haven't been trustworthy as big favorites. Now, recently they've improved. I think they blew out Minnesota. Not that that's difficult to do, but still Chicago didn't do that. And then Detroit, it wasn't a blowout, but they won. They were up by 10 a few times in that game of Thanksgiving. So it makes sense that they're 6.5 point favorites, but I feel like Chicago might be able to keep this game close with the running game. So I initially was on Green Bay to start the week. I changed to Chicago. But this is not a game I'm confident in, and I don't see myself betting this game. So, what do you think about this one?
Well, this is one of the games I wanted to mention earlier when we talk about power ratings and overrated, underrated. So, because I think it's going to tie in very well. Where do you have the Packers in your overall? Forget groups. Like what number?
Let's look here. I had the Packers at number 6.
Okay, very good. So I have Packers number 9. Okay. Where do you have the Bears?
I had the Bears at 13.
Okay, so you have them much closer together. Okay, so I have the Bears at number 18. Okay. So now I only have a 2.5 point difference between number 9, and number 18. So you have them even closer than I do. Now let's make a spread in the game. Packers at home, give them a couple of points, maybe 2 points for being home. You throw in I said a 2.5 point differential, which makes the line 4.5. For me, divisional games knock off a 0.5 point, and then anything between 3.5 and 7.5, I knock off a 0.5 point just because of the fourth quarter. I make this line 3. As much as I have Chicago as the most overrated team in the league, sorry, Carolina's the most overrated team in the league. Chicago's the second most overrated team in the league. I still make the spread 3, maybe 3.5, I think is fair. Now let's talk about last week's games. You mentioned Green Bay had a 10-point lead. Green Bay was gifted 11 points. Now, we can talk about the first touchdown where I think it was incomplete. You think it was complete. Fine. Let's pretend that was complete. The next touchdown they had was a full start that would have led to a field goal. So literally by granting a timeout to LaFleur after he saw his lineman full start on the play, on the fourth down play, the refs decided, you know what, you're right. It was probably a timeout, even though it clearly wasn't. So that's 4 points right there. So that game was a little bit closer than what it should have been. I know they covered against Minnesota as a 6.5 point favorite. That was their first cover as a 6.5 point favorite or more all season. They're now 1-6 against the spread as a 6.5 point favorite. And by the way, of the 7 games they've been favored by 6.5 points, they've only won 4 of them. So they've lost or tied on some of those games as well. So how Green Bay is now a 6.5 point favorite against, again, I think the Bears are very overrated. They're not as good as their record indicates, obviously. That being said, they are an improving team. And we said months ago that this was a team that was going to get better as the season went along because there's more the new pieces on the offensive line. They put together all these guys in the offseason. So as you now grow together over the course of 2-3 months, there's more continuity on the offensive line. There's an improvement there. Obviously, you have a new coach coming in. There's improvement there. Caleb Williams has improved in the fact that he's been able to scramble very, very well and escape pressure. Last year, he would throw the ball away or throw picks or take bad sacks. This year, he's not taking any sacks. He's getting out of those pressure situations, and he's getting away. He's getting away from the pressure and kind of keeping drives alive with his legs, which he did a couple times in the Giants comeback. Last week, he tried very hard to give me a survivor win. He was awful last week. Now, granted, it was wind. It was a tough passing situation. But Caleb was 17 of 36, 4.5 yards per attempt. That's Bryce Young territory. Anything under 5 is just utterly pathetic. He had the one pick. He had another pick that was dropped because I don't know what the Eagles are doing defensively. They certainly weren't competing, but they dropped another pick. So he has not been good. He's escaped pressure, but he has not been good. I expect him to be pressured in this game, obviously with Parsons. I expect him to be able to get out of pressure. I expect them to be able to run the football, and I don't expect Green Bay, like they have all season, to win by margin. Could the Bears win this game? Sure. Why not? The Bears could win this game. Are they a 9-3 team? No, they're a 6-6 team. There's at least 3 games they shouldn't have won. The Raider game, fine. There was a blocked field goal at the end or a missed field goal at the end. Maybe there would have been time to win. They came back and they won the Bengals game after giving up, the onside kick. They should have won that game before they had the Colston Loveland long touchdown pass. But they should have lost the Redskins game. That was a game where literally Jaden fumbled an exchange when they were running out the clock. They should have lost the Giants game, and the coach got fired because he kicked the field goal from the 1 foot yard line. Yeah. There are games they should have lost. They should not have lost last week. They dominated last week running. And if they can run the football this week, and if Caleb doesn't throw picks, or if his picks are dropped because his throws are so erratic, I say this game is close. I think this game is 23-20, 24-20, low scoring. I don't think this is a 31-24 type of game. I think this is a game in the low 40s. I wouldn't surprise me if Green Bay were behind like they were in the Giants game. It wouldn't surprise me if this was a similar situation to the Green Bay Browns game, which Green Bay blew. And it wouldn't surprise me if it was like Green Bay Carolina, which was a tie game until Carolina had a game-winning drive late. So I think the Bears are a live dog. I think 6.5 is an utterly ridiculous spread. I think this should be one of our picks at 6.5 points. Even if this were 4.5, I would advocate for taking it. So like I said, I made line 3. And if you want to be fair to Green Bay because they're the better team, and they are the better team, make it 3.5. I buy it. But 6.5 is too much.
All right, we'll put it on the card. John's saying I'm pretty desperate in Survivor this week. Top 3 options are Browns. That will be over the Titans, which I'm sure Evan would advocate. Bills over the Bengals, which I would not take. And then Eagles over the Chargers, which is a game we haven't gotten to yet. It was going to the Eagles until the Jalen Carter injury.
Well, if you look at spreads alone, if you like the Bills, that's the biggest favorite. But I happen to really, as I mentioned earlier, I think the Browns are your bet.
Yeah, I would go with the Browns too. And John's the Bills fan who's worried about the Bengals. So that would be like, rooting for your team and then they lose and then you lose Survivor because of that. That's too painful. So I think for your sanity, John, I think you have to go with the Browns. So
I've been there. It's hard.
Yeah. That's why I don't root for a team. People ask me, who's your favorite team? Like the team I'm betting on. That's my favorite team.
I say I root for my pockets.
Yes. Yes, exactly. That's the way to go, I think. It sounds like we both like the Bears here. I initially was on the Packers, but came to my senses. I think Chicago's the right side. All right. Next game, the last of the 4:00 games is Rams at Cardinals. I think you know where I'm going with this one. I've been betting on these high spreads all year with these great teams or fading the horrible teams. And I think the Rams are a great team despite what happened last week. It reminds me of what we saw last year, Eagles against Panthers. It was like week 4. It was around the same time. It's like week 14 or something. Eagles hosted the Panthers. They were completely flat. And they should have lost the game. On the final play, Bryce Young located Xavier Legette in the end zone. Legette had the ball in his hands, and he dropped it. If he didn't drop it, the Panthers would have won. And people would be like, oh, what's wrong with the Eagles? They'd be talking like that. And the Eagles went on to win the Super Bowl. And the Eagles later that year, a couple weeks later, they lost to the Redskins because, first of all, Hurts got injured, but then Devontae Smith dropped the pass to win the game. The Eagles, who were the best team last year, came back the following week and completely dismantled the Cowboys. Wasn't even close. I think if the Rams are the best team in the NFL, and I still have them number 1, and I still think that they should be the favorites to win the Super Bowl, and they are the favorites in the Super Bowl right now, according to the sports books. If they are this great team, then they will come back off that loss and dismantle the Cardinals. You have a backup quarterback against the top 3 defense. Didn't look like a top 3 defense last week, but again, neither did the Eagles last year against the Panthers. So I think the Rams will bounce back here. We have a team that Sean McVay has absolutely dominated in Arizona. He has a phenomenal record against Arizona. He just doesn't lose to them. He actually did last year, but there were a lot of injuries in that game. He's going to have everyone healthy, and the Cardinals, mostly everyone healthy. The Cardinals have a bunch of injuries as well. They're not going to have Walter Nolan, their first round pick, who has been tremendous. Marvin Harrison Jr., not that he means all that much, but he looks like he's going to be out. Max Melton, one of their starting cornerbacks, is going to be out. Trey Benson doesn't seem like he's going to come back, so there's going to be no running game to speak of for Arizona, and that's kind of like where the Rams are. If they have a weakness, it's the outside of their short yardage, which you'll get to, I'm sure. If they have one weakness defensively, it's against the run, but Arizona can't run the ball. And we've seen Arizona compete most of the year, but when they've really stepped up in competition and played the best teams, they haven't stood a chance. Against Seattle, they got dominated. Against San Francisco, not that San Francisco is as good as these top tier NFC West teams, but they got dominated in that game as well. I don't think they're going to play well at all against the Rams, and I think the Rams will win easily. And I'm thinking about betting the -20.5 line. This is as I said, Jacksonville's one of my top plays. This is the top play of the week for me. The Rams. What do you think?
I don't agree. Now, I don't have a strong conviction. I can absolutely see your side of the argument. I can absolutely see this game being 31-10. Rams off of a really, call it a no-show. Defensively, they were really bad on fourth downs last week. Their offense was great. They moved the ball at will. They just had some turnovers. The pick six, it happens. The pick in the end zone, bounce off somebody's head, it happens. He took a strip sack fumble late in the game on the final drive on a third down. If he doesn't fumble that ball, the next play it's tied, and who knows what happens. So I don't really downgrade the Rams from it. I still have the Rams like you as number one in the league. The problem is they're not a great team because there is no great team. They're the best team for what we have, but they're not a great team. Now, Arizona has had some weird games. They got blown out by Seattle. They also beat Dallas on a Monday night, but they've also been competitive in a bunch of these games. They were competitive against Green Bay. They were competitive against the Colts, teams that are, I think, better. Not better than the Rams, but better teams in general. Obviously, last week they fought back. They were down 20-10. They covered the game 20-17. My bigger problem is really the Rams when they're ahead by a lot, by a wide margin. Now, I was against you and I was wrong when I took the Bucs on that Monday night game. Was it Sunday night or Monday night game a couple weeks ago?
Sunday night, yeah.
But what I wasn't wrong about is when the Rams have margin and the Rams are up big, they go to sleep with the ball. They had 3 points in the second half against Tampa Bay. They had 7 points in the second half against Jacksonville when they were up by a lot. They had 14 of their 21 points against Seattle in the first quarter because they were up 21-9. They stopped scoring. When this team is ahead by margin, they just stopped scoring. They don't have their foot on the gas. They don't attack in the second half with big leads. So if they're up 21-7 at halftime, which is an absolutely very likely, I think the better bet in this game is Rams first half, because I think the Rams come out on fire. They come out with a purpose. They come out and play defense. And they're a much better team than the Cardinals. But the Cardinals fight. The Cardinals, when they're behind, they try. They didn't cover against the Niners when they were behind by margin because they turned the ball over going into the end zone. Same thing against Seattle. They fought at the end. They turned the ball over. It could be a similar situation here where it's 35-13 in the fourth quarter. And what did I do in that game against the Niners? I took Jacoby, Brissett, to throw for 450-plus yards. And he came out every single down. He was throwing the ball. And the Niners were in prevent defense, and the yardage was there. The scoring wasn't there, but they still moved the ball. And then we talk about short yardage situations. The Rams are awful in short yardage. They're below average. Forget talking about the best or top 5 or top 10. They're not even top 16 in short yardage situation. On third downs, they're a below average team. It's a fact. They're 38% in the league. That's number 18 on third downs. When it's third and short, I don't have the exact numbers, but I've pointed out numerous times over the last couple of months how 3rd and 1, they don't pick up 3rd and 1. 4th and 1, they don't pick it up. 4th and 2, they're not good in those situations. They're down in the red zone, they're good because they have Devontae. But they don't throw the ball to Devontae at the 35-yard line on 3rd and 2. They run the ball straight up the middle with Kyron Williams for a loss of 1. Blake Corum is awful. This guy can't run the football at all. So, yes, they're a much better football team than the Cardinals. Are they deserving of being an 8.5-point favorite on the road? I don't know. I thought this line should have been 7 or less. And I think the back door is wide open. And I don't think the Rams are one of those teams that look to get margin. They're not that team like Buffalo last year or New England of the past when they had Randy Moss and they're just stepping on your throat. This team has shown time and time again that when they're ahead by 2 scores, they sit on the football. So unless they're mad about last week and they decide, we want to come out and just show everybody that we're the best, I don't think that's the case. I think McVay wants to get the win, not put Stafford in harm's way, and that's it. Now, unless he comes out and says, McVay says Stafford had a bad game, he wants him to win the MVP for the sake of getting Stafford stats, and he throws the ball late just to pad his numbers. I just don't see McVay as that type of coach, and he hasn't shown it this year when they've been ahead by margin. So I don't love the game. I know we've taken a bunch of big favorites throughout the season. If I'm in an office pool, I'm playing the Cardinals simply because I think the back door is open. And I don't. If the Rams are up 27-13, there's no reason for them to score again.
You mentioned those games like where they didn't score in the second half against Jacksonville and against the Buccaneers. They covered those games.
Mhm.
They didn't need to
Dominated
score.
the first half.
Yeah, they dominated the first half on both sides of the ball, but their defense dominated, and their defense has been amazing this year. It was ranked number one heading into last year. It's still top three despite what happened against Carolina, and I think that was a fluke. I just think that was a no-show. Every year teams play down to the competition a couple times. Like I said, the Eagles against the Panthers last year.
100%.
Right. And so their defense, I believe, will just dominate Arizona. I just don't see Arizona doing anything in the second half, even if the Rams stop scoring. So this could be like 31-7 halftime, and it'll end 34-7. I just don't see Arizona doing anything in the second half.
Could very well be. That's exactly what happened in the Tampa game. To me, if I'm betting this game, I would lay the Rams in the first half. I would say the Rams come out on fire. I would
Yeah.
say they come out first drive, second drive. I think they put up touchdowns on two of their first three drives. I think this game could be 14-3 or 17-3 early second quarter. And you're looking good. But after that, I'd be on the other side. So if we're talking about laying for the game, I don't love it. I just feel like Arizona's going to try to score. They have nothing to lose. They're not a good football team, but they're not that bad. They did have that weird game against Dallas, and they competed against some other teams like Green Bay, like the Colts. So I just don't see them laying down and dying in this game. For them to get blown out in this game, they'd have to get blown out early. I don't think this game is 10-10 at halftime and then it ends 34 to 13. I think if the Rams cover, I think they come out because they're coming out early, 14, 17 points on the first three drives, and that's where you could take advantage. And then we can live bet, right? Then the game's over.
Yeah.
But because I don't think I would bet the Cardinals coming back, but I would bet Brissett again on the over yards. Why not? I don't see why
Right.
he wouldn't throw the ball downfield. Harrison, McBride. And you talk about the run game. If they're behind, it's going to be a pass, pass, pass script.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think the Rams script: run, 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 punt.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we did see the opposite in the Tennessee game back in week 2. It was a long time ago, but they were actually trailing
I remember.
at halftime, and then the
Yes.
Rams just dominated second half. So
That's Tennessee.
yeah, I know, but this Arizona. I mean, Arizona's not good either. They played scrappy football against bad teams, and you mentioned Colts Packers. I think the more I think about the Colts, the more it's like they're like when you're at a bar and you see a girl and she looks good, and then you realize that it's completely different when the lights are on. I think that's what I compare the Colts to. Is like they've looked good, sort of, and we think they've looked good, but I don't know if they're actually good. Not to rehash the Colts again, but
It's too long ago. But Seattle, they were down big. They covered that game. I think that was a late cover. Green Bay was at home. They lost by 4.
Seattle, Arizona, Seattle is a complete domination.
Arizona, Seattle was a complete domination. It was 23-20.
Oh, the first game. I meant the second. Sorry, I was talking about the second.
No, I'm talking about the first game in Arizona.
Yeah. Okay, I was talking about the second game where Seattle just completely sat on them the entire game.
And your Jaguars, they lost by 3.
Yeah. I mean,
Arizona's not as bad as Tennessee. Arizona's a bad football team. They're a below average football team. They don't do a lot well. You're betting on this game. Your simple handicap is the Rams are coming off of a no-show, and they're gonna take it out on their next opponent, a team that they're significantly better than. I 100% agree. They're going to come out and score 14 to 17 points early. Mm-hmm. My concern is the full game.
I just see it differently. I think this is the dream. Like, this is matchup and spot. Like, we don't get this too often. This reminds me of Detroit versus Washington. I know Detroit keeps their foot on the gas, but the Rams defense, it's the opposite. Like, Detroit's offense keeps its foot on the gas. The Rams defense has kept its foot on the gas. And I think this game's going to go the same way, just lower scoring.
It also reminds me of Detroit Giants, which we were on. And all of a sudden, the Giants are up by 7-10 points with the fourth quarter. Matchup and spot, no question about it.
Right, but Detroit, as we've seen, is not nearly as good as we thought. And that's the difference here. Is the Rams are the best team. I think
I'd make the Rams a 3-point favorite over the Lions. And by the way, they play next week in Rams, and I made the line 4.5, and the Lions 4.5.
Okay. What did I make that line? Let me see here.
That was me factoring in St. Brown out, which I had no idea he was playing
I
until
know.
5 minutes before the game.
I know. I like the Cowboys a little bit when St. Brown I thought was out, and then it was announced that he would play, and then I just didn't bet the game. So it was crazy. There's so much action on Dallas tonight. Everyone I talked to was like, "Oh, Dallas, right? Dallas, right?" That's just kind of like, yeah, it's like a major red flag, you know. I made that line 4.5 as well. Okay, we're on the same page. Okay, we have our two night games. Texans and the Chiefs. The Chiefs are -3.5, and I feel like the Chiefs' offensive line issues are well publicized at this point. Josh Simmons placed an IR. Jawan Taylor out, potentially DNP twice. Same with Trey Smith, DNP twice. So you have an offensive line missing 3 players against Houston's defensive line, which has been elite. I just, that's such a big advantage here for the Houston. And then conversely, Houston's offensive line has been a lot better recently. I entered the year. I remember we had a disagreement on how good Houston was, and my concern with them was that they couldn't block. And I'd say for about half the year that was true. Like the Seattle game, for example, Monday Night Football, they just didn't stand a chance against that pass rush. But they've gotten better blocking. Their rookie tackle has been better. Ed Ingram blocking really well for them. It just seems like C.J. Stroud and before him, Davis Mills, they've had more time in the pocket than anticipated, and that's really helped their offense here. And they're playing against the Chiefs defense that is such an abomination. Like they're 27th in EPA. They can't stop anyone. Like they're so awful. I feel like Houston should be able to score in Kansas City, and this game for Kansas City could resemble the Super Bowl that they had against the Buccaneers, where Mahomes is just running for his life all night. And yet maybe somehow, some way, Mahomes ekes out a win here. Andy Reid with more time. Would it surprise me if the Chiefs won? Obviously not, because they're the Chiefs, but they'd have to win by margin here, like more than 3.5. Like I could see the Chiefs winning 20-17 or something. But I think Houston's definitely a live dog here. I think is even more of a toss up straight up. So I like Houston here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like Houston too. I mean, I was thinking about this game earlier in the week, and I'm thinking, well, the past, Kansas City just killed this team. Like Houston's a fraud when it comes to playing the teams like, well, you think about last year in the playoffs and right before the playoffs, Baltimore, Kansas City, Buffalo, they just don't compete against the elite teams. Except Kansas City's not elite. They might be one of the better teams in the league. Because like I said before, the league stinks. The league is not very good. No. Kansas City is by default one of the better teams. But if you have Wanye Morris starting at left tackle, and that's not a recipe for success against Danielle Hunter and Anderson. That's a big problem. Now, Kamari Lassiter is going to be out. He's really good. He adds another dimension to that secondary. But outside of Rashee Rice, I don't really see that there's a huge threat that Mahomes has. It's really just Mahomes making plays and finding a way to win. So I do think Kansas City will find a way to win. I think they'll find a way to win 21-20, 23-20. So if we're getting 3.5 points, I like the Texans. I absolutely believe the Texans can win this game. I think this game comes down to the red zone on both sides. Last week, we know how bad Kansas City's defense has been. They gave up 7.5 yards per play to Dallas. But red zone performance, they were 2 for 5 in the red zone. We've seen how bad Houston is in the red zone. They were bad again last week in the red zone. And as mentioned earlier with the Colts talk, they benefited from a delay of game that wasn't called and then a phantom PI that led to a touchdown. So, if these teams go 2 for 5 in the red zone and they're just kicking field goals, you're talking about the game that goes back and forth, 17-16, 19-17, 20-19. 3 points could absolutely come into play, and one of these teams can win this game by 1 or 2 points, given all the field goals that I anticipate will happen. I think the under is a good play in this game. I think, again, the team total under is a good play in this game. I don't think either team is going to get big plays downfield. I think this will be played like a playoff game. I think it has to be played like a playoff game. The loser of this game is probably out. Yeah. Because Indy and Jacksonville play each other, I would say Houston probably has too much ground to make up if they get another loss. And Kansas City has lost to the Chargers. They lost to Jacksonville. And if they lose to Houston, they're probably out by default because they'd be behind all the teams that they have losses to straight up.
Yeah.
So this is a game where you finally are waiting all day for Sunday night, where it's really a playoff game. But because it's in Kansas City, I think the Chiefs will find a way to win. But I like the 3.
Okay. Yeah. The Colts would be, I feel like, the only team they'd have the tiebreaker against. And that may not matter if they lose to the Jaguars. So, yeah. So, yeah, we agree on that. I think we could put this on the card. And
by the way, the Chiefs, they found a way to come back and beat the Colts. But, all these games are 1-score losses. They're losing every game they're losing now in the last 3 to 4 games by 3 points or 1 point. So I could absolutely see this game being a 3-point game, 2-point game, 1-point game where Kansas City has a chance to win by 1 or 2 late, or vice versa. And I think this. I think the line's right. 3 is the right spread.
Actually, no, never mind. I agree. It's the right spread. I thought for a second I made this different, but no, I didn't. Anyway, the Monday night game is Eagles at the Chargers. This line was 3. It's down to 2.5. As John mentioned in his comment that Jalen Carter is injured. So I found this to be a tough handicap. I'm wondering if you are more confident here because on one hand, like what. The Eagles could come back from that loss. They were humiliated. I think it goes into a show, and just take it out on the Chargers. The Chargers, of course, don't have their tackles, and the Eagles have a much better pass rush. Even without Jalen Carter, they'll be able to get to Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, of course, has the issue with his fingers. We don't know how effective he's going to be. He was in shotgun on every play. He was limited in practice today. He's got. I would be shocked if he doesn't play, but he could like fumble the ball more often than he would normally. So, and considering how much he's going to get hit, I think there's a real chance of that. So that that would be the Eagles' argument here. But for the Chargers, I think that this could be a Philadelphia collapse, like kind of like what they had in 2023. Maybe not to the same extent, but. They are certainly not playing nearly as well as they were last year, and I still think there's like price memory into it because people remember that they won the Super Bowl and how dominant they were. But yeah, they're certainly worse. Jalen Hurts, for some reason, is not running as much. Saquon Barkley mentioned second worst yards before contact. The offensive line's not blocking. Lane Johnson's out. It just Philadelphia's offense is just so much worse. The defense is great, at least not except for last week. But their offense is pitiful. And then, of course, you can't forget circadian rhythms, the benefiting the Chargers. So if this is a close game heading into halftime, the Chargers will have a boost in the second half. I think if the Eagles were to win or cover the spread, they would have to have a great first half and just dominate. When this was 3, like the Chargers looked better to me. At 2.5, I think it could be an overreaction to the Jalen Carter injury. So I would maybe consider the Eagles at -2.5. So yeah, I'm pretty torn on the game. What do you think?
I like the Eagles in a bounce back spot, and it's not just a bounce back spot. First of all, I believe this game is going to go to 3. I see it's 2.5 -20, 2.5 -16. At the Westgate. So I think this line is going to move towards 3. I am not ready to paint the Eagles into a collapse spot like they did 2 years ago. Obviously, there's a lot wrong with their offense and has been for the majority of the season. But I think now you get them in a controlled environment. Last week it was very windy in that game. Nobody could throw the ball. Caleb couldn't throw the ball. Hurts certainly couldn't throw the ball. Now they're in a dome or like a pretend dome. And I think there'll be a much easier way for Hurts to throw the ball. He actually did have a couple of downfield throws to A.J. Brown down the left sideline that were nice. The tush push that he fumbled, the refs have been awful all year. There's too many games where I'm looking at the inconsistencies in the refereeing. In the Giants game, they marked forward progress. Last week, they did not mark forward progress. It was even more egregious last week because he was actually moving backwards. So forward progress wasn't even that he was stopped. He was literally being pushed in the other direction. And they just let the play go. And, of course, he fumbled. So I think he'll be much better this week in an indoor setting. There's a huge difference, obviously, in offensive and defensive lines between the Bears and the Chargers. The Chargers don't have an offensive line, without Alt in there, the Bears offensive line, you mentioned the pass, the run blocking, the Chargers don't have that. I'm not impressed with what the Chargers bring to the table. Even if Hurts is fine, even if you say Hurts is 100%, I still believe he'll be under pressure the entire game, Carter or no Carter. So, and I'm not impressed with the Chargers. The Chargers started the season 3-0, and since they've basically been an average 500 team. Who have they beaten? They got blown out against Jacksonville. They lost. They barely beat the Dolphins. They lost to the Giants. This is a team that's been inconsistent. This is a team that's basically right around 500. They lost home games to the Colts and the Redskins. I mentioned the blowout against Jacksonville. The Eagles need to bounce back and win this game. If the Eagles are frauds, complete frauds, and they lose this game, well, no. If they can't bounce back on extra rest from the defensive performance that showed up last week to be run on like they were, it's one thing to have inconsistent offenses or Petula not play calling and people fighting over who should be playing, who should be calling plays. His house got egged, by the way, so good. I'm happy about that.
Actually, real quick, I saw the local newscast. They're like, Petullo's house vandalized. I was like, they do those headlines before the story. I'm like, oh my god, it's like, did they break his windows or take down the door or something? Like, no, it's just egg. It's like mischief night stuff. Like, come on.
When you give up 300 yards rushing, like each running back, they took turns just beating on the Eagles' defensive line.
Yeah.
It was embarrassing. That's like questioning your manhood. They are going to come out defensively and play a lot harder. I would imagine they play a lot harder with a lot more pride in a Monday night setting. We talk about these games on Thursdays, throw Friday into the mix, short week, weird things happen. They obviously didn't show up. It's time to show up. And now they're playing in a game where they should have the edge on both sides, offensive and defensive lines. And I think Herbert will be better because it's indoors. So you factor all that together. I don't think the Eagles are running away with the game. I don't think it's going to look like the Kansas City Super Bowl where it's a blowout and Hurts throwing the ball downfield, up by 3 touchdowns late in the game. But I can absolutely see this game being like 24-13, something like that, 23-13, 23-16. I just think the Eagles' defensive line is going to dominate this week like last week their defensive line got dominated. I think their defensive line turns around and puts on a little bit of a show, pressures Herbert into mistakes. If Hampton's back or not, I think Hampton's very good. If he's not back, I think Vidal stinks. I don't think he does much at all. If Hampton's back, is he rusty? Is he healthy? Is he fine? Is he going to get a full workload? I have no idea. But my bet this week is a bounce back spot for a defensive line that was absolutely embarrassed on a national setting.
I would like to think that you could be right. Obviously, you could be right, but I don't trust it. I don't know. There's something wrong with this Eagles team. I just don't know. And look, they did beat the Packers and the Lions, so maybe I'm overreacting to one game. But
that was their defense, right? Their defense controlled those games. Their defense dominated Love and dominated Goff.
Yeah.
And there was also a weather factor in those games, right? Again, you have a controlled environment. So I don't expect them to hold the Chargers to 7 points like they did the Lions or 10 points or whatever those games against the Packers were. But I believe their defensive line will show up in a big way. I think Herbert's going to be under pressure big time. And I don't know that he's going to be willing to run. He might. Or is he just going to get rid of the ball because he doesn't want to take hits?
Yeah. I just worry that like whatever is going wrong with the offense, like the AJ Brown stuff and like Hurts not looking really into playing. It just looks like he's going through the motions. What if that has just carried over to the defense and the defense just doesn't play as well as they could? That's my worry about the Eagles.
All right, so it's a fair worry, but it's a guess. And last week, AJ Brown was great. He was the only player on offense who was good.
He's the only one playing well. It's unbelievable.
He was the only one to play well. Hurts was a disaster. Devontae Smith didn't do anything. Barkley hasn't shown up in weeks. The offensive line was bad. The defensive line didn't show up at all. The secondary was fine, but they didn't have to be good. Caleb wasn't any good. It was really the run game. It was 2 running backs and an offensive line that took turns beating the crap out of them with a bat. It just, one after the other. Here, your turn, my turn, your turn, mine. It was crazy. And I'm watching this thinking like, I can't believe I'm losing Survivor on this. You know what I was doing? I was live betting, as I told you. I'm live betting Monungai. He had a 41 rushing yards. His over-under was 65.5. Swift had 77 yards at halftime. His line was 99.5.
That's
like,
crazy.
What are they crazy here? Are they not watching the football game? And that's the whole point of live betting. They're not watching the football game. It's a computer system that is set specifically based on what was the line pregame and how much time was remaining. The computer wasn't watching the beating that the offensive line was putting on Philly. They were simply watching the fact that it was a halftime. Swift's line was 45 or 50 or whatever it was. So his line is going to be 22.5 in the second half. And I say, thank you very much. I'm going to ladder you to 125 and 150. We did the same thing with Monungai. Over 65.5, laddered to 125 at 5-1 or 7-1, whatever the odds were. Unfortunately, I didn't parlay them because I don't usually parlay the ladders. I usually play the ladders, trunk by trunk. And you walk away from that game winning a lot of money on that game. Now, I would give all that money back and keep my survivor ticket. Although I would have lost with the Rams. Really pissed off. I wouldn't have been hedging the Rams-Carolina game as much as I was hedging the Bears, who I thought would cover, and just watching that game, just an embarrassment. But I think the Eagles bounce back. I don't think the Eagles are frauds. I think the Eagles are still a good football team. I have the Eagles, this might sound crazy, I have the Eagles 4th. I have them slightly ahead of the Lions, who I have 5th, and slightly ahead of Seattle, that I have 6th.
Well, I don't think it's crazy because I have a 4th too.
Yeah. So, are they frauds? Are they going to completely cave? What's their schedule after this week? Let's take a look. Philly.
They play the Raiders and then the Redskins, Bills, Redskins.
Okay, so Philly, if they win this game, you can mark them down to go 3-1. Let's say, what's their record here? They have 8 wins.
8-4. Yeah.
They're very likely going to go 12-5 to finish the season, and they'll be a 3 seed or a 2 seed.
And I think they'd be in line to play the Packers Bears team that does not win the division in the first round. So, and they already beat the Packers. So I assume, I don't know. I assume they win the first game and then they eventually lose to the Rams or Seahawks. Do you answer fantasy roster questions? Yes, but our show's about to end. But yeah, if you can enter that quickly, then we'll answer. So, okay, so let me I'll put that down as a maybe. We can discuss what we want to do here. So Eagles are 2.5 in the contest. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay, so we have 4 definites, and let me put them on the screen here to see if we want to keep them. It would be the Browns -4.5 against the Titans, Ravens -5.5 against the Steelers. Well, obviously monitor Lamar Jackson there. Bears +6.5 against the Packers, and Houston +3 against Kansas City. Do you want to remove any of them?
No, and again, we really need to monitor Lamar Jackson, because if he's not playing, that's not a team that I want to have money. I don't want to put -5.5 Tyler Huntley.
What if he's limited tomorrow and does not practice fully at all? Does that change anything for you?
No.
Okay.
Unfortunately, if he becomes a game time decision, then I would ride with it.
Yeah, and
my guess is he plays.
If it is Huntley, I think, like I said, we saw him win by 9 against Chicago, and Chicago is better than Pittsburgh. So I'd still be okay with it. I wouldn't switch to Pittsburgh if it's Huntley at +5.5.
I agree, and to me, it's similar to last week with Buffalo. It's more of a pick against the Steelers than it is on the Ravens.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Caleb asking, should I drop Trey Benson for Blake Corum? Don't like where he's going in terms of practice DMP and the deadline's coming up. I think I would rather have Corum than Benson. We don't know when Benson's coming back. Corum has a big role in that offense. I would wonder if you have anyone else you could drop instead of Benson, because Corum should be owned in any league. I mean, he's one of the best handcuffs in football. So, but yeah, if you want to make that exchange, I'm fine. I'm fine with it. Okay, so the maybes we have 5 maybes, so we have to pick one of these 5. It's a mixture of games you like and I like. So we have our maybes, which I'll put on the screen right now. We have the Vikings. The Vikings -2.5 against the Redskins, obviously monitoring Jaden Daniels. We have the Jets +3 against the Dolphins. We have the Bengals +5.5 against the Bills. We have my Rams -8.5 against the Cardinals, and the Eagles -2.5 against the Chargers. So we have to pick one of these five.
Well, if Mariota starts, I think the Vikings are an easy pick, and that line's going to go to 3 immediately.
I
Jaden,
agree. Yeah.
If Jaden starts, I think that comes out.
Yeah.
Now, the Jets. The Jets is a sharp play, right? That's a play that people don't necessarily want to make, which makes it a good, smart pick. You're getting 3 points. It's probably the right side, but it's the Jets. You have a strong conviction on the Rams. I'm not telling you that it's the wrong or bad pick. For me, from an office pool setting, I'm playing the dog in that setting just because I don't trust the Rams in a full game scenario. But I'm not opposed to the pick. I'll let you make that call. And I think Cincinnati is probably a good pick. I think Cincinnati, they're definitely a live team. And John Sanders will tell you that if you're a Bills fan, this is probably the one team you don't want to play in the regular season.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Bills fans know that when the Bills play the Chiefs in the regular season, as I told you several weeks ago, it's the easiest pick on the board. Yeah. And by the way, when they play next year in the regular season, both of them will be finished second in the division potentially, and they play again. We're going to take the Bills again, -2.5 or -1.5 or +1.5, whatever that number comes to be, and whatever venue it's in. The Bills will win that game. Yeah. That's just what they do. The Bills beat the Chiefs in the regular season because the Chiefs don't care.
Yeah, that's true. So I agree. If this is Mariota, I think Minnesota is the play here. I'm going to have a lot on the Rams, so I'm okay just leaving off one card. I'm sure Tom will like the Rams as well tomorrow. At least I think so. If let's just say if it is Daniels and Minnesota is not an option, how would you order the other four?
Philly, Cincy, Jets.
Philly. Let me put that down. Cincy, Jets, Rams. Okay.
Who are your 4 locks? Browns, Ravens, Bears, Texans. Okay.
Yeah. So, all right. So we will do that, and we'll see what happens tomorrow with the final injury report. We may not even know Mariota's status, so we might have to play one of the Eagles or Bengals. I think I'd prefer Bengals over Eagles.
Okay. I always like dogs anyway.
Yeah. So we'd have 3 underdogs and 2 favorites.
If we don't know if Mariota's starting, then and if this becomes a game time situation, I would nix it. I would say screw it.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
I don't want any money on JJ against Jaden.
Yeah. I don't want Jaden. I don't want to fade Jaden Daniels as as an underdog. So to the Vikings at least. Okay, so yeah, that's where we stand. We'll obviously keep updated. Maybe we may have to move on off the Ravens. So we'll see what happens. There's always a surprise. The injury reports. So we'll look at that. Cole saying, or is that Kale? I think it's Kale actually. I could drop Adonai Mitchell for him. I guess my only bad receiver. I would rather have Blake Corum than Adonai Mitchell in fantasy. So either one, I would do it. Like, I don't know. Like, when are you playing Adonai Mitchell? I know he had a great game last week, but he's so inconsistent. He drops so many passes. You can't rely on him. If this were best ball, I'd be like, yeah, fine. But like, I don't know if I could ever put him into lineup, especially after this week where, you're not going to have any more bye weeks to worry about. It's going to be your best players. So is Mitchell ever going to play for you? Like, probably not, right? But like, what if Kyron Williams goes down? Like, you'd be so happy that you have Corum because like you're probably not going to get him on the waivers. So that's why like Corum, like guys like Corum, Algier, Monangai, like these guys absolutely have to be rostered. Like these high end handcuffs who, if they're first of all, they already do stuff. But if their starters ahead of them get hurt, like they are super top priority on waivers. So like they should always be owned no matter what. So I'd rather have I'd rather Corum over Mitchell, and I'd rather have Benson over Mitchell. So I think I would drop Mitchell. So all right, anything else, Seven, before we head out?
No, we talked before a little bit about power ratings and overall standings. Like I have the overall standings up right now. It's crazy to look at this and see the Bears in first place.
I know.
I guess it's not so crazy to see New England. To see New England in first place, I guess I'm not shocked given the schedule that they've had. But looking at the Bears in first place in the NFC just doesn't make any sense. Now, the Bears, I'm hoping, because I just don't want to see the Bears in the playoffs again. Like I said earlier, to me, that's not a team that belongs. The Bears could lose both games to the Packers. They play the Packers 2 of the next 3 weeks. The sandwich in between is Cleveland, so I would expect them to beat Cleveland. And they close at Niners in Detroit. So I have a feeling that Chicago could end 10-7. And at 10-7, they might not make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough race. Yeah, I mean the Niners are the 7th seed at 9-4. Like it's gonna be tough.
Well, the Niners by default are going to be the 6th seed after this week because they'll jump either the Bears or the Packers. Whoever loses that game, they'll be ahead of.
Right. Okay. So
now,
maybe the Eagles will play the Niners.
The Niners also play Chicago in 3 weeks in San Fran on Sunday Night Football.
Okay.
Is that Sunday Night Football? Yes. Week 17, Sunday Night Football, Niners, Bears.
Yeah, and that will not be flexed. So
that will not be flexed, I don't think.
Let's hope the Dolphins Bengals is.
That's potentially a playoff game. The loser of that game is likely out. Assuming Detroit, it will come down to Detroit. If you assume spreads matter, and Detroit loses to the Rams, which I think we both think the Rams are a 4.5-point favorite, they should win.
Yeah.
Detroit then plays Pitt, at Minnesota, at Chicago. So Detroit would need to run the table. And if the Niners beat the Bears and the Lions beat the Bears are gone. Good riddance.
Crazy that they could go from the 1 seed after Thanksgiving to out.
By the way, I don't think they're favored to make the playoffs right now.
Let me look.
I wonder what they are on FanDuel.
Well, we can we can look. So let's see, playoffs. What is this? To make the playoffs, the Bears are -320.
Oh wow. What's the no?
The no on the Bears to miss the playoffs is +245.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. It's a lot of hype with the Bears.
If you don't like the Colts this week, that's another play.
That's true. Yeah, it's a good one. That is a good one. I don't like the Colts. Period. I said they're the girl you meet at the bar and she looks good, and then you turn the lights on and you're like, what am I looking at?
Well, if the Colts lose this week, they're going to be in big trouble.
Who do they have after? Let's look. Put this on the screen.
At Seattle, Niners, and then Jacksonville and at Houston.
That's rough. That is so rough.
Yeah.
There's no easy game there at all. It's 8-4, 9-3, 9-4, 8-4, 7-5.
They will be favored Niners in Jacksonville. They'll be dogs Seattle and Houston.
Yeah. And I said they shouldn't be favored this week. Their quarterback has a fractured leg. That's crazy.
Yeah, but a fractured leg, from some of the things that I've heard, is that it's like a chip in the bone, like right above his ankle.
Yeah, but he's still not running. This is a guy who runs a lot.
No, he's not running. Correct.
He's not running at all.
But we're thinking like a broken leg, like the guy's not in a cast.
Yeah,
he's still playing football.
I'm still going to bet under rushing yards on him until I lose. That was such an easy bet. Like it's under 7.5 rushing yards. I don't even know what it is this week. I didn't look. I'm almost scared to look that they took it off the board. But I was going to look at it. Let's look real quickly. Colts. I wonder if they have it. Rushing props. No, they don't have it. They don't have it. So maybe they won't have it.
Yeah, they're not putting that on the board.
Yeah.
I think there's too much of a risk of him being knocked out, like right in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, and then it's Riley Leonard.
Yep. Riley Leonard from Notre Dame or Duke.
Yeah.
Or both.
Or both.
Speaking of college football.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the rankings?
On the rankings.
On who the committee now has that potentially would get in.
Playoff. Do they have that? They have that up? Let's see. Man, this is too small. That's what she said. I was told you can't ever. That's what she said yourself, but I think that's not correct. All right, this is larger. That's what she said. We have Oregon versus that or whatever. Alabama.
No, I'm saying like if Alabama, let's put it this way, Notre Dame, Miami beat Notre Dame, right?
Yes.
Miami is now what, 12th? I think they're 12. BYU is ahead of Miami. But presumably, if BYU is a 14-point dog and they lose, Miami would jump BYU and then be side by side with Notre Dame.
Right.
So how do you put Notre Dame ahead of Miami when they beat them straight up?
I don't know.
And they both
that was so early in the season, but still, yeah.
No, I get it, but they still played the game.
Yeah, I know.
Otherwise, what's the point of playing the game?
Right.
That's like saying, well, Texas has 3 losses, but they lost to their number 1 team in the first week of the season by 7 points.
Yeah.
Someone told me that Alabama, if they lose, they can be out. Let's say BYU wins, they could knock Alabama behind Notre Dame and knock Alabama. I said, there's no chance Bama doesn't make it. Because if they don't put Bama in, you're penalizing them for making the SEC championship game and losing to a top 3 team that they already beat once this season.
Yeah, that's crazy. You can't
knock Alabama out unless there's an injury and they lose 45-10.
Right.
They already beat Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I think they beat Georgia on the road. Did they beat Georgia on the road?
What was that?
They beat Georgia on the road.
Yeah.
So you're going to penalize a team that made the SEC championship game after now going 1-1, including a win on the road against a top 3 team. There's no way you could penalize them for that. And then if you have BYU win and you have Notre Dame and Miami side by side, how the heck do you put Notre Dame over Miami when they both have 2 losses and Miami beat them?
Yeah.
I would have put Texas in. I don't know how you feel about Texas, because Texas lost obviously to Florida, but outside of that, they lost to the top team. In week 1, they lost to Ohio State, and they lost to Oklahoma, and they lost to Georgia on the road. Both of those games were on the road. So 2 of their losses against top 3 teams in the country on the road, and then they had a blemish in Florida. So that knocks them behind Notre Dame, BYU, and Miami. That's ridiculous. Now, I don't think Texas is good, but they have a better resume than Notre Dame, BYU, Miami.
Yeah, you gotta put in Arch Manning. I don't know, that they're better in Oklahoma.
They're better than Oklahoma. They're probably better than Texas A&M also.
Yeah.
Who else did they beat in that mix? They beat a bunch of teams in that mix.
They
beat Oklahoma. They killed Oklahoma.
Yeah, it wasn't close. Yeah.
They beat Vandy, which is a good team. They beat Texas A&M last week by 10.
Yeah.
So their resume is significantly better than Notre Dame. Notre Dame beat nobody. They beat USC.
Yeah.
That was the only ranked team they beat. All right, they beat Pitt. Sorry, they beat another ranked team. That doesn't count.
It doesn't count.
Notre Dame played Texas A&M and well, again, 41-40, but they lost. So how is Notre Dame ahead of Texas?
I don't know. I don't get that.
And I think the committee, they made a mistake because everyone knows Miami beat Notre Dame. They should have just had Texas above both of them. And if BYU won, knock Texas out. If BYU loses, keep Texas in.
Right.
And if JMU or Duke make this tournament, like that's just
well, you gotta have some easy wins like we had last year.
Yeah, you love that. You're just gonna we'll bet against them, no problem.
I know. I love those 45-10 games. You don't have to sweat them out.
I don't want you to watch the 45-10 game.
You don't have to watch it. You can watch something. You can turn on. I'm watching Squid Game, the reality show, not the real one, or it's not even real, but it's actually the reality show is the real. Yeah, it's the real one, but the Squid. Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm having fun watching it. So you can watch that. The game's over by halftime, and then you can just chill out knowing you won money. And
I want to watch a good football game. I don't want to see what happened last year where you have blowouts. That's not worth watching.
Well, you're going to have good games at the end. It's I don't know. I feel it's like in the NCAA tournament in March Madness, like you have 116. Like you have to have a couple blowouts.
I know, but the 116 game is on a day where there's 16 games and you're live betting games all day.
Yeah.
But when you have those blowouts or you have those upsets, and you get to watch Fairleigh Dickinson in the Elite Eight get blown out against North Carolina when there's only one game on at a time. I don't need to see the Peacocks from wherever they're from against North Carolina. I want to watch the better teams. I just don't want. I don't care for the upsets. In round one, it's okay, but not when you get to the Sweet 16, Elite Eight. I want better games.
Yeah.
I hate when these upsets happen, and we're going to get an NFL playoffs with Chicago, and Jacksonville and Denver. I mean, can you imagine Pittsburgh getting in? Imagine Buffalo, Houston, and Kansas City are out, and you get a banged up Charger team, a banged up Baltimore team, a Aaron Rodgers is corpse, and the Jaguars. Like, that is just a disaster. You're gonna get in the NFC. You'll have Chicago and Carolina and Tampa. Oh, terrible. By the way, I'm a Niner fan, as we all know. They stink. They have no defense. And they have a quarterback who has a below average arm.
Yeah, the Browns gift wrapped that game for them last week. Just didn't have to do anything. Just say, hey, start at the 20-yard line every drive.
Yeah, and I lost money on it.
Yeah. I hear you. I had the Browns too. All right. So yeah, that's our week 14 pick show. Please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store, and thanks guys for watching and commenting. Really appreciate it. Thanks especially to Kevin Kovac for the $5 super chat, the $2 super chat, and then the $5 super chat. Thanks as always, Kevin. Really appreciate it. You really keep the show going here. You and Slew and John Sanders, you guys are so awesome. So thank you so much. All right, we're going to be back tomorrow with Tom, our final week 14 picks live stream. That show's way different because last week on the Friday show, we were talking about McDonald's, and we're talking about the fax machines, and then we got to the picks. So it's like random stuff, and we don't do every game. We kind of bounce around and talk about the games we like the most. So and Tom's been on a heater talking about like upset picks. He's been on fire with that. He had Washington last week. They didn't win outright, but it was a great call because they covered the spread, and they could have won in overtime. So can't wait to see who he has as his upset this week. But yeah, we're going to be back tomorrow around 10:45, 11 o'clock. So stay tuned then, and I hope you guys have a great night. And I'll talk